Councilmember Mejia? Does that sound all right by you?
Yes.
Okay. Councilman Fallon?
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Inyang?
Go ahead, me. You run the
Sound
show.
good by you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Mr. Lustician, I think we have a consensus on direction here.
Okay, so the staff will pull up the work session item 2, I believe you said, sir.
Yes.
And so Director Lewis, can you provide some background and some information for the council?
Yes, I can. Good evening, everyone. And I, in fact, lost my Wi-Fi connection, so I missed all of that. So I'm just learning that I'm starting the show here, but that's just fine. Again, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
As you know, the Municipal Center project is well underway. I was there earlier today, and the multi-purpose rooms off the council chambers have taken shape, as have other interior elements of the renovation project. As a part of the project, staff is seeking direction from you this evening on the style and form of council seating on the dais. We're actually recommending that you keep the dais because it helps or provides a better view from and to the assembly or the attendees at the council meeting. There are several options we'd like to review with you, as well as other considerations, and to get your input and direction. And Madam Clerk, can I share my screen? Okay, are you seeing council dais seating, first page?
Yes, I am.
Okay. I'm not seeing it the way I'm supposed to here. Okay, maybe I should bring everything to the same page. Give me just a moment. Not
Sure.
sure what's happening here. It's not sure. Okay. I'm not getting it.
Are you trying to present it?
I'm trying to, yes, I'm trying to show my PowerPoint presentation. And I can see it on my monitor, but obviously you're not seeing it. So I'm trying to correct that.
There should be an option to sort of switch screens that are being.
I practiced this a half a dozen times before the meeting, so I'm not sure what's going on, but of course I wasn't in this meeting. Give me just 1 minute. I apologize to stop sharing for a minute. Let me get it starting on this end and sharing my screen. Let's see if this takes care of it. Do you see it now?
Still seeing what was up previously. Yeah, we're seeing the second slide. Yeah.
Okay, you're seeing current council seating?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right. This is good. Thank you. And sorry about the delay. So currently, for those council members who hadn't had a chance to visit Town Hall, the current seating is linear. It's a linear shared desk for the mayor and council members on the dais. It's served by a handicap ramp, and this is not my first page. And the town manager and clerk actually sit at a table or a desk, I can't recall, it's been so long, to the left of the dais. This picture shows it in front. That's obviously not the way it's currently the form of it currently.
Okay.
Option 1 is the status quo, to replace the existing seating with the same style and form. It fits on the existing dais footprint. It's also served, or can continue to be served, by this existing handicap ramp on the right. But this view limits, I believe, the view that some council members have of each other, especially those on either end.
Mm-hmm.
Option 2 is a curved or crescent desk. This allows a better view and maybe may facilitate more interaction among council members. It also may require a larger dais. Depending upon the depth of the curve, the town manager and clerk desk might need to be moved into view with this configuration. The lower or bottom image actually seems to accommodate staff seating as a part of the council dais.
Okay, we're
Option-
still on that second slide.
And I'm actually, I'm on a roll here and seeing every one of them. I'm not sure what the problem is here. How about now? Are you seeing option 2?
Yeah, that looks like option 2.
Because it should
Or,
say
no,
option
actually, that's
2.
your first option.
Okay, are you seeing option 2 now?
There we go.
Okay, all right. I'm working with 2 screens here and they're not working well with me. Okay, I was talking about the curve or crescent form of council seating. The upper one doesn't appear to have, it just appears to be council seating. The lower ones may accommodate staff seating on the dais along with council members.
Hmm.
Option 3, are you seeing the V-shaped formation of the dais seating? This
Yeah.
also improves the view and may facilitate more interaction among council members, especially those on either end. Obviously, the upper view has more council members than we do in Riverdale Park, but it's really emphasizing the V shape of this form versus a more crescent round shape in the previous one. The bottom view is also in a V formation. Both would require a larger dais, but the bottom view seems to accommodate staff seating on the dais along with council members. Option 4 is a horseshoe, a better view of all of the council members in this view. You know, this view does not have a dais. We're not recommending that we eliminate the dais, but we wanted you to see this option in terms of seating formation. This is a much larger footprint and will require a much larger dais. And it seems to accommodate the staff seating as a part of the council seating. And option 5 actually is the best image I could get of this, of individual council desk on a dais, allows more spacing between the seats, can provide refuge under the desk in those kinds of situations, can be moved temporarily to accommodate other activities in the council chambers. But it also, because of its linear formation, might limit views of council members, especially those at the end. Before I move on, so those are the 5 formations that we wanted to show you this evening. Before I move on to other considerations, do you have any questions about any of these forms?
Do these, when you were looking at these, do these configurations also come with square footage?
We haven't looked at any specific product. We captured these images on different websites. In fact, some of them you might have recognized from a presentation. Those of you who were seated on the council back in 2021 might recognize some of these images that were provided by the project architects. We found some additional ones this time around that we thought we'd show to you. If there are several forms that you'd like to look at, then we can get some pricing on those and come back and present that information to you. But this was just to give you an idea of the different forms that the seating can take.
Yeah, I was just curious about, what, I mean, with each, design, what their square footage, that footprint is.
And
think
yes,
that
we
room
didn't get that.
that room is how many square feet?
Oh goodness, I've forgotten the council chambers. So
Okay.
it's possible. I'm
Go
sorry.
ahead, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say it's possible some of these forms could fit within the existing dais footprint. Certainly,
Okay.
if we replace it in kind, some of the curved ones could be shallow enough to fit within that existing footprint.
Okay.
And so we can gather that information if you'd like that level of detail about these options, or maybe the one or two you'd like to consider further.
Well, yeah, yeah. I know for me, I think that would help because then you get an idea of how much space, both, you know, the table or the seating along with the dais are gonna, you know, be in that room. And, you know, I wanna say the room is either like, you know, either 2,000 or 2,700 square feet. I can't remember.
Mhm.
I used to remember, but not anymore, so,
We do have some constraints in terms of width, because you know
Right.
there's an exit on the left side of the
Yes.
dais, and then access to the council offices behind the council chambers on the right side. And then we
It's
have
all-
this handicap ramp. So if width-wise, we have to stay within that footprint. There's an opportunity, obviously, for greater depth. And certainly
Right.
for the crescent and some of those other shapes that might be necessary, but we are constrained in terms of width.
Okay. Okay. Council, any other questions, comments regarding the designs presented here?
Mr. Vice Mayor,
Mr. Smith, please.
I am interested in hearing perspectives from staff on the ideas that include staff seating on the dais. Having been a staffer in an organization with electoral leadership, that would make me very uncomfortable. But if that is not the consensus among our staff, I'm certainly happy to consider those. That was my first thought. And also just want to clarify if we move away from the current layout, will we be maintaining continuity with portraiture of the Alamo?
I'm not sure of your second question. Did you?
Portraiture of the
elaborate
Alamo?
a little bit?
I'm wasting people's time with a joke. The
Oh.
first
Okay,
the first
did I miss that
mock-up
too?
has a big portrait of the Alamo in the background.
Okay, Alamo, I got you. Okay. All right.
So.
Oh, I was thinking the restaurant.
That would
Mr.
be
Vice
a good
Mayor,
image.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I can respond to the council member's first question.
Okay, Mr. Lustician, please.
From a staff perspective, this is your space. I'm personally not a fan of staff being on the dais with the council. I believe staff should be slightly remote, if you will, away from the dais. This is your chamber, and these are your meetings. But we're merely presenting examples of what other jurisdictions do. And so it's up to the council.
Okay,
I mean, just personally, I mean, apart from it being our chamber, you know, again, in that situation, I would not want to be confused with a person that has the responsibilities of elected leadership. So I would agree with Mr. Lustician on that.
okay.
Vice Mayor.
Mr. Inyang.
Could we go to option 2? You know, I think the idea of a curve of some sort makes a lot of sense. I had questions in terms of just like seating arrangement. Was it a standard seating arrangement depending on like ward you represent, or is it just like whoever got there first? That was my first question. The second question was around like my own preference of sort of a curvature. And I'm actually curious about either the top right version on option 2, or to the point about square footage and investigating that, what the individual desks would allow. If there's a possibility to maybe get desks that aren't all this, you know, square boxes, that maybe they still could allow for some curvature, might be the best of both worlds. But I'm sort of curious on maybe investigating what the footprint would be, and if there's still an opportunity to maybe do whether it's the V shape or some type of slight staggering, so it's a curved version.
Okay. A note for, and my apologies to some members of the council. A bit of an oversight because I think we have a council here that roughly a third, if not a half, have yet to sit at the dais on in town hall for a council meeting. And the way the dais is set up, that 7 seats on the dais, the center seat is the mayor's seat. And starting from as you are sitting in the audience from the right going left, you have the ward seats in order: Ward 1, Ward 2, Ward 3, the mayor's seat, Ward 4, Ward 5, and then Ward 6 over on the left side as you are seated in the audience facing the council dais. That's how the seats are set up. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Vice Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
We decided to wait for you, and we decided to jump in and start talking about some of the items that we could engage in now, because we felt some of the other ones were ones that you would especially want to be a part of. Not to say that you would not want to be a part of this as well, but we thought we had to start somewhere.
And that's great. But I did want to comment on this particular issue while I was reviewing this on the airplane. Then I had some thoughts and wanted to share them, if I may.
So long as the cat doesn't have your tongue, you're good to go.
Now the cat was in my lap for a moment, but she's moved on, at least for a little while.
Okay.
So I would say that there are a few competing design thoughts that I have. And one of them is that it would be best if the council could see each other to the extent that they can. And so the best version for that, meeting that goal, would be the horseshoe design that was on slide 6. But I feel that that is also perhaps focusing too much on the council interactions, because of course we are hoping when in the newly renovated chambers to have significant public attendance, and it would be nice to have a more equitable arrangement for interacting with members of the public than the horseshoe design would have. So I think that I would lean towards a curved design, as is shown on the top of option 2. That actually looks like it's pretty reasonable, but I would want to sort of sit down with a plan view of it and draw some lines and make sure that people could, every member of the council could pretty much see each other, the other members of the council. And I have some other thoughts that may be digging too much into the details about design. But maybe on the when we get to the last slide, then I could come back and discuss that a little bit more.
Okay.
So would you like me to take over running the meeting, or do you want to continue to the end of the discussion of this item?
I was about to say, and with that, I would be happy to pass the gavel to you.
Okay.
So long as I can make one comment prior.
Sure.
I'm kind of leaning toward option 2. I think council having a better view of each other would be an improvement. Yet at the same time, also just trying to find a way to keep it so that there's more of that dialogue, or a design that's encouraging that dialogue between residents and elected officials and staff. some type of design that way. Hopefully with this little addition, this extra space, we have a better way of having a podium for any resident coming up who wants to address council and staff to be able to.
Hmm.
So that there's so that there's a better interaction there as well as with the audience in attendance.
Sounds good.
So, and there you go. That's all yours.
Thank you. Councilmember Foe, please go ahead.
I just wanted to say I concur with a lot of that's already been said. I like to be able to look over to staff, and I do think it would be uncomfortable for them to be on the dais. I do like I liked what we had originally, but I do think it becomes polarized towards the ends. I would like to see something that allows us to fit in a similar footprint as to what we did previously. So I do also find myself to be a little bit fond of the crescent shaped desk at the top on number 2. There's slide 2 as well. And that's all.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Are there additional council comments on this presentation? Are there public comments on this presentation? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to weigh in a little bit on the other design considerations.
Sir, I hadn't reviewed those yet, so you're welcome to. Otherwise, I can run through them really quickly.
Please go ahead. Go ahead and run through them.
Okay, these are other design features that you might want to consider, and that's whether or not to install bullet-resistant front panels, which is sort of reflected in this upper configuration, or plexiglass and front glass. The second picture, middle one, shows plexiglass dividing the council seats. But you might also want something in the front or the ability to install them if the situation calls for that. This one, again, we've already addressed the issue of where the staff sits. So one of the things I was surprised about, I've been in local government for a long time, and about 5 or 6 of them, and there was always a dedicated location for staff. It helps that they be close enough. In our current situation, I found myself separated. You know, if I get there too late, I got to get whatever seat is available. And somebody I need to talk to on the same agenda item is located somewhere else. So there wasn't an opportunity to confer without getting up and walking across to that other staff person. Also, when we have visitors who are doing presentations, where they might have to juggle some things, a desk is probably more suitable sometimes than a podium. But again, those are just other considerations you might want to make. And then assembly seating, if you had any particular thoughts or preferences on what they should look like. And with that, I'll complete the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Lewis. I'll let the council and public go ahead before diving into my own thoughts on other design considerations. So any thoughts from council?
I'm good without the plexi.
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Councilmember Foe.
I would be open to any staff suggestions on how they would like to see themselves seated. I think that is pertinent to the dialogue, and I think they should participate in design as well. So I know that it's our workspace, but it like in the truest sense of the word "our," it is a shared facility, and there's much more experience than I bring to the table in that staff room. So certainly should be open to what staff suggests and what they would like for seating. Thank you.
Do we have designs for a staff table?
No, we do
Like
not.
a unified staff table?
No, I can check. Actually, I can go to some council chambers. If you've ever been to the Prince George's County council chambers, they have on the dais, their clerk and some other staff on that side. And when the planning board is in attendance, they're on the other side and the council is in the middle. Then there are staff boxes. If you look at the image on the lower left, this simulates how the floor, how it looks straight on, except for those elevated side seating areas. So these are staff seats down on the floor on both sides of in this bottom image. And that resembles how that part of the council, Prince George's County Council chambers appears.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of that. It's just something about it just never sat right with me.
Mhm.
The one thing that I liked about how the dais is there now is it's not a substantially higher up. It's somewhat higher up, but that's about it. Just so it, you know, people in the audience have a clearer view of elected officials on the dais. I would think something that if we could come up with something that also allows everyone to have a ready view of staff as well. I don't know what that is, and especially with the space that we're dealing with. But I do want to ask this one question. With the new bump out that's happening on that south wall, with the I believe the AV room that used to be in that northwest corner, that's being removed, correct?
It's being converted to a small conference room, but the
Okay.
footprint will remain the same.
Okay, so the footprint remains the same. Okay. Okay. My thought was just really, has there been considerations of repositioning how the dais sits in that room?
No,
Okay.
not that I've been a part of, but I don't think so.
Okay.
Because of where the bump outs are going, where the existing exit is, where access to the council office is,
Well, is that becoming less of a council office under its new rendition?
Actually, I think just the opposite. More room for maybe an additional desk or two. If you recall, there was a wall separating the space that has been removed. The bathroom has been expanded, but there's still a lot of square footage left for use by the council.
Okay, and you still have that storage closet in that southeast corner.
It's a file room at the
file
present
room.
time. Yes. Pretty sizable. Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager, you have a comment?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Lingua, now that you mention changing the position of the dais, I do believe that's something that we can talk with our architect about, and you may be able to shift the orientation of the room to be, instead of being focused on the east wall, perhaps the center being more at the northeast corner. You have these two doors going out, and you may be able to have an orientation there. Would have to check to see if that doorway, the double door to the outside, would still be a required emergency exit. But since you're going to have doorways on the south wall out to the plaza, you may be able to have something that obstructs that. So that's something we can certainly talk with the architect about, and see if there's options to change that. The only other comment I would have is that on the bullet resistant panels, what we're talking about there is having some sort of area of refuge under the desk. So it wouldn't be a panel in front of you, like behind bulletproof glass. It would be under the desk, so that in the terrible event if an active shooting occurred, it would provide an opportunity for the council members to just retreat under the desk there if they're not able to exit the room.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there additional council or public or additional council comments or questions?
Yes, yes, this is Kalon.
Councilmember Kalan, go ahead.
Yeah, I just hear the town manager is saying that if there are any shooting in the hall, council member can go under their chair or table. So are we not safe where we're going to meet, host this meeting?
I don't understand the question, Councilmember.
No, I heard the town manager is saying the double door, they're going to have an emergency door, and I think they were on the west or the northwest. Then he said, in case of any shooting, any council member can go under his desk. So are we not safe in that council meeting when we go there? We expecting somebody to come there to shoot us?
So Councilmember Kalan, I don't know if you have watched the news over the last few years, but there have been some
I
incidents.
know even yesterday, Texas.
Texas, Maine, just anywhere can become an active shooting zone, but there have been incidents where an unhappy resident has shown up at a council meeting and started shooting at the council. And so the question is, should we introduce some low impact changes to produce a safe place for members of the council, since they would be the target of, well, we very often do things that upset someone, and I do my best to minimize that. I think the rest of the council does as well, but just in case it happens, do we want to have a space of refuge? I believe that we are safe. I think we have a good relationship with most of our residents, but the question is, while we have this this design in front of us, should we go ahead and improve the safety of it?
Okay, well, if that's the case, why can't we apply the security measure? Anyone is coming in there to be searched properly, whether you are a staff, council member, or you are our town people who are coming there to take part of the meeting. Yeah, it has to be searched, because you can't believe nobody.
So I don't believe that would be in the best interests of encouraging people to attend and having open government, to require a search, have metal detectors and so on. And if for some reason there was a threat against the council, an active threat against the council, and we had to meet, then I could imagine we might temporarily institute such a policy. But I think having it as a default policy is both not a good use of resources, and that I think the probability that this will happen is low, but also not conductive to having a open and representative government.
Well,
that's a decision the council as a whole will have to make, of course.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, you don't know who like you, you don't know who don't like you. Okay? Even myself, I don't know who like me, I don't know who don't like me. Because the town manager, the word that he brought is become suspicious, right? Because if we don't have security in our meeting, that's why we have the police are with us. Yes, we can give the chief of the police, we have to talk to him to give us every meeting, give us somebody, one police officer who can be with us there. in case of
So there's generally a police officer there. Mr. Callan, I will point out that the topic of discussion is the design of the dais tonight, and if we want to discuss additional security measures at some future time, we can do that. But at least at the moment, we're discussing design, and the only question is whether we want to insert a little bit more shielding into the front of the dais in order to protect the council in the unlikely event that we would have an active shooter event.
Yeah, I was quiet. I don't want to say nothing, but when the town manager mentioned that position, that's why I talk.
I understand, but
Yeah.
this is not the
And,
right time to discuss that.
We can't go some places where we are not safe. That's what I'm saying. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay. Councilmember Inyang.
Yes, I think if it's, my personal opinion is if it's not extremely cost prohibitive, I don't think it's a bad idea to sort of plan for it now, considering the fact that we may never, we want to approach this topic for, probably years until the next sort of major redesign happens. And so if it's a nominal change, I think it's a worthwhile thing to do. Obviously, we plan for the unfathomable all the time, so I don't think it's an issue. I think it's worth considering. And then I guess the last comment I had was just around the Director Lewis mentioned sort of like seating or furniture to sort of help people giving presentations. I very much like the idea of a podium and maybe a side table next to it, to sort of help if a person has exhibits or anything like that. I value the town staff sort of opinion in terms of where they're seating, but just considering how much we rely on town staff in these meetings virtually now, sort of not knowing how the how in-person meetings will be, it does seem odd if town staff is sort of scattered throughout the building, and if there's either not a sort of dedicated place or at least some place nearby where they're mic'd, that they can sort of speak to, because I'm also considering that we'll be moving to a sort of a hybrid formation. And so we have to be considered in terms of just like microphones, connection to center audio, video connection. And so dedicated seating or specific seating that's already mic'd up and hooked up might be something we should consider, since we don't have the luxury of just sort of talking to a room and making sure everyone is inclusive.
Thank you, Councilmember Inyang. Any additional council comments on these other design considerations? Any public comments on these additional other design considerations? Okay, I agree with Councilmember Inyang about the bullet-resistant front panels, that if it's a nominal increase in cost, not outrageous, then we should probably go for it just to plan for the future. The most recent science that I've seen, which is maybe a year and a half out of date, suggests that the plexiglass panels are not particularly effective, prevent viral spread. So I would say we should address that issue in other ways. We have tried in the past a couple of different locations for the podium, for guest presenters, for members of the public speaking up on a topic. And it may be that we need to have a few different podiums or places that a podium can go, depending on what the circumstances are. So just keep that in mind. The location to the side was put there so that both members of the public in attendance and the council could see the speaker. Putting it in front means that the attendees just see the back of the speaker, and it's not necessarily the best. I don't have too much thought on assembly seating, and am sort of interested. I see the one picture in the lower right about that, and I'm interested in learning if there are more options than just regularly arrayed grid of chairs as is shown there. But I'm open to discussion on that. And then just a few things that aren't on this slide. that I would like to capture. One of them is that I would like to have the dais and the surfaces that the council is working on, whether those are movable desks or a permanent fixture, to be something that can be easily maintained in the long term. So the old dais had I forget what the name of it is, Formica surface, and it was peeling off at places, and so I think that maybe going for solid wood or something that was a little bit more, and that one might have been 20 odd years old, but anyway, it was more durable would be good. And then sort of the last item is that I would suggest that there be a ridiculous number of easily accessible plugs for each council member. So maybe 3 to 4 plugs for each council member, because I feel like just the demands on plugging in devices keep going up. And so plugs are pretty easy to install if you put them in the design process early. And so I just like that to be a consideration. Hopefully batteries will get better and we won't need them, but then they can be repurposed in some way or another. And I think that if we can look at the horseshoe table, slide 6, I think that some of so there are these clear panels in front of each of the seats, and I think that was partly set up so that the people sitting at those could see down to some sort of screen. And so how to integrate a screen so that in a hybrid meeting, the council members can readily see what's going on the screen is something to consider. And I don't have an opinion on a good answer for that, but that's just something to consider in the design process. Okay, any additional council or public comments on this topic? Okay, let's, I don't even know what the agenda looks like at this point, so if we could pull it up and see how we're going to work our way through.
Well, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
What we had thought of was we weren't sure how long what each discussion was going to be. It was, I believe, we're going to look at numbers, item 2, which was this, item 4, which was bus stop design, and then possibly item 5, which was the welcome signage. That is until you return, at which point we thought that we would proceed with special ledge, take care of that, and then move to the work session.
Okay, well, do we want to stick with that plan, or do we want to jump immediately to the special legislative and then come back to the work session?
Well, we were just thinking, we just laid out those 3 items just to start going over them. And however far we got was however far we got.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Okay, well, I would suggest that we move immediately to the special legislative, and then we can maybe just pick up the work session from the top and work through, skipping over the dais discussion. Is the council okay with that as a plan?
That's fine by me.
Good here.
That's fine.
That's fine.
Okay, then let's go ahead and do that, and I will call the special legislative meeting to order at 8:19 p.m. Members of the council in attendance. Looks like everyone is here. Councilmember Smith, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fantastic. Members of the council, you have an agenda before you. Are any changes required to that agenda? Hearing none. Well, are there any conflicts of interest that any council members have for agenda items? Again, seeing no indication from the council that they wish to speak, I'll assume that's a no. May I please have a motion to approve the agenda as submitted?
So moved.
Approved.
Seconded.
Okay.
Motion by Councilmember Callan, seconded by Councilmember Foe to approve the agenda as submitted. Is there any discussion of the agenda by council? Are there any public comments? Hearing none, seeing no indication, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith,
Aye.
Councilmember Foe,
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua,
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang,
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia,
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. Are there any public comments this evening? I don't see any microphones unmuting or hands going up. I'll assume that's a no. Legislative action items, move on to number 1. Motion to ratify town staff authorization of the contract for engineering services for CIP number 20 PP04, welcome signage. I believe there's a staff presentation before we get to a motion.
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Director Shelton is going to address this for the council.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council and members of the public. The town's approved budget includes CIP project number 20 PP04, welcome signage. And in April, the town staff shared with the Mayor and Council some renderings designed by Pannoni, and later this evening, town staff will share updated renderings for the smaller welcome signs for additional comment. These renderings, as well as additional work performed by Pannoni, are part of a task order agreement. Pannoni is assisting the town staff with the survey design, procurement process, and most tasks are involved besides the actual fabrication installation of the welcome signs. The task order agreement with our on-call engineering firm is greater than $20,000, and it is standard for town staff to seek approval on agreements, excuse me, greater than $20,000. It was recently discovered when preparing for the update regarding the renderings that the original agreement did not follow the town standard and was not approved by the Mayor and Council, even though it was for $24,933.23. And town staff are now requesting that the Mayor and Council ratify the task order agreement with Pannoni so that we can proceed. I'm happy to answer any questions about this project.
Thank you, Director Chilton. Council members, are there questions for Director Chilton about this this issue?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
So it's due to the fact that it exceeds $20,000, and that's the reason why it needs to be brought to council, which I'm fine of. The final design was that, I know there were options that were shown, I believe the last time. Was the final decision made on the actual sign itself, or is that going to be decided at a later time?
That will be decided a little bit later. I know that there was a consensus on the larger welcome sign, but the smaller welcome sign, as I'll repeat again later, the smaller welcome sign was a little too similar to College Park's welcome sign, smaller welcome sign on a post. So the mayor and council asked the town staff to work with Pannoni to modify the smaller sign design a little bit in order to make it stand out a little bit more. And so that's what I'll be presenting later today for comment and questions.
Thank you.
When we resume in the work session.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any additional council questions or comments? Okay, seeing none, those questions and comments were intended just in advance of a motion. May I please have a motion to ratify the town staff authorization of the contract for engineering services for CIP number 20 PP04 welcome signage for an amount not to exceed $24,933.24.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Is there additional council discussion of this motion? Are there any public comments on this motion? Okay, I will just mention, I've had some conversations with the town manager about this in advance of this appearing before the council, and he has assured me that new processes have been put in place to prevent this sort of thing from happening again. We do have mistakes do happen. People do make mistakes, and we just have to make sure that we understand why and implement procedures, processes, and oversight in order to ensure that it doesn't. So I think I appreciate the council's apparent willingness to approve this retroactively and move forward. So thank you. Any additional comments? Okay, I'll do a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes 6-0. The next item on the agenda, legislative action item number 2, is approval of a letter to MNC PPC regarding reforestation of their certain of their properties. And I believe that all of you received a copy of the letter recently. I apologize that I did not get back to town staff about that, as I was occupied with my family issues over the weekend. But this is the letter. And so I'll give council an opportunity to read it as it exists at this time, and see if we're ready to move forward on this. Give you, how about a minute? So 60 seconds from now. Okay, it's been almost a minute and seems to be quiet. Is someone ready to make a motion to approve sending this to MNC PPC Planning Board?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I'd like to motion that we send this letter to MNC PPC concerning reforestation of their agricultural properties.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Foe, seconded by Councilmember Lingua. Is there council discussion of the letter, text of the letter?
Reads fine by me.
Are there any public comments on the text of the letter?
I have no comment.
Very good. Okay, if everybody's happy with it, then we can go ahead and I will do a roll call vote, starting with Councilmember Smith. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilmember Callan.
Aye.
Thank you. That finishes legislative action item number 2. We can go back to the agenda. I believe we have no other action items. So are there any items of new business that we need to bring up this evening? Hearing none, do we have any items of unfinished business? Hearing none, may I have a motion to adjourn? And just to be clear, this is just adjournment back to the work session.
So moved.
Seconded.
Motion to adjourn, I believe, by Councilmember Smith, seconded by Councilmember Foe. Someone please correct me if that's incorrect. And this motion is neither debated nor discussed, so we'll move immediately to a roll call vote. Councilmember Smith.
Aye.
Councilmember Foe.
Aye.
Councilmember Lingua.
Aye.
Councilmember Inyang.
Aye.
Councilmember Mejia.
Aye.
Councilmember Kellogg.
Aye.
And I abstain. The motion passes. We are adjourned at 8:30 p.m. So let's move on to the work session agenda. I will formally call us to order. I presume in the discussion previously, the agenda was we're informal here, so no changes to the agenda were requested by the council, and presumably no one had conflicts of interest. Is that correct, Mr. Vice Mayor?
That is correct.
Okay, great. Was the swearing in of Aaron Wright, did that occur?
No, that did not.
Is
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
Ms. Wright doesn't appear to be present tonight. My apologies.
Okay, so I guess we can skip over that one. And that brings us to the second presentation, the annual police department update.
Chief Quixons
Hello, good evening.
or Deputy Chief Turner.
Yes, sir. Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Good evening.
Chief Quixon and I are pleased to give everybody an update on policing in Riverdale Park. If we can move to the next slide. In the next several slides, we're going to give a snapshot of community engagement that we participated in the last 12 months. Here is Career Day at Riverdale Park Elementary School. Obviously, we're always a big hit, a little bit better than the fire department. So on the next slide, we had National Night Out. We hosted that event at Riverdale Elementary School. And then we did a bike ride with community members, elected officials, and town staff, which was a big hit as well. On the next slide, we had the annual kickball game. It's usually the police department against teachers and students. We put students on each team, and they really enjoy that. And for 3 years in a row, we're 3-0. And then this is Trunk or Treat. This is probably our biggest event of the year. We co-host this with Prince George's County Police Department. And we did this last Friday at Riverdale Plaza. We probably had a 400 or 500 kids come through. It's a great event, big turnout. And then Toys for Tots, as well as Shop with a Cop, which, obviously that goes without saying how important that is. We take anywhere between 12 and 15 students from Riverdale Elementary shopping for Christmas. And then we're going to focus here on some crime statistics, starting with violent crime. Part 1 violent crime offenses include murder, rape, robbery, and aggravated assault. We can move to the next slide, please. We'll show a little comparison for violent crime for 2021, 2022, and then the first half of 2023. So we had a slight uptick in 2022 from 2021, which all of our law enforcement partners have seen the same increase, especially here in the county with District 1, Highsville Station. But we're seeing a slight decrease here in 2023. We can move on. And here are the numbers for the Part 1 offenses for 2021 complete in 2022, and then again the first 6 months of 2023. So we have seen some increases, especially in robbery from 2021 to 2023, 2021 to 2022. However, the first part of 2021, we've seen a decrease, or I think our numbers will go back to what we saw in 2021. And then again, a slight increase in carjackings. Well, well, more than a slight, but when you have such low numbers, it's a big increase with one or two. So we are seeing this across the board in all of our municipal partners, and as well as the county and Washington, D.C. A lot of this is affected by juvenile crime. And then our assaults, again, where they're down and they continue to be progressing down in the first half of 2023. And in the next slides, we'll do a property crime comparison. So as we can see here in 2021, we had 218, 2022, 221, and so far the first half of 2023, 102. And in the next slide, we separated these between auto theft, theft, and burglary. And I think the biggest standout here is auto theft. So we had 29 in 2021, 34 in 2022, and already in 2023, we've had 26. And again, this is a reflection of what we're seeing is a high rate of juvenile offenders, as well as we've seen on the news where the Kias and stuff are stolen with phone cords. Our thefts are on par. Have they been? Probably going to be down a little bit in 2023. We had 178, then 174, and then we're at 70 now. So, and then our accomplishments. So we're really proud of Sergeant Saunders. He recently was trained as a tactical medic. He had a background in the fire department prior to joining the police department, so he was already an EMT. Since completing this class, he submitted to the Maryland Police Training Commission a course called Officer Down, which he's going to train all of our officers in, and probably a few in surrounding agencies. And we're hoping this training will we can use it as well as for any citizen or resident that's injured as well. We also upgraded our body-worn cameras and tasers throughout the year. I'm sure you guys remember when we combined the contracts for the two to save the town a little bit of money. And now we have the newest body cameras on the market. We're going to continue sending our officers through crisis intervention training until the whole department has been trained. We're about 70% right now. And then we had 2 officers attend train the trainer for a rapid responsive active shooter training. We've used this company since 2018 to train our officers, and now we have 2 that are actual trainers that we don't have to send our officers out for training. During the last year, we hosted a couple of joint trainings with our municipal partners at Hyattsville and Greenbelt, University of Maryland, to host active shooter training. Our previous town communications supervisor retired, and we were able to promote Matt Kenyon, who is a current employee of the department. The town-wide security camera system was implemented. And since it's been up and running, and just in the last week, we received a request from the United States Park Police for some video footage of a vehicle that had passed through our camera that was wanted in a homicide. So it's already paying dividends. The town has established a EAP program, which is up and running and is available to any employee of the town. Move on to our goals, please. We're going to continue to grow the department in line with the town's diversity and inclusion policy. Currently, the police department has 4 sworn vacancies. We have 2 potential candidates to join the police academy in late November, and we're working to fill the other 2 spots. We're going to continue to develop and collaborate with the community, policing relationships with town residents. And then, again, with succession planning, we have 3 current police department employees that are eligible for retirement and another one next year. We don't anticipate them retiring, but we have to plan for the future. So we'll take any questions that you may have.
Thank you, Deputy Chief Turner. Council members, it looks like Councilmember Kellogg has questions.
Good evening, Mr. Officer.
Good evening.
My name is Council Member Kalon, Ward 6. I'm getting some report from some of my residents or some business people, like liquor store here by Ken Walter Avenue, the gas station, the 7-Eleven, and some part of Riverdale Plaza. There's a lot of people, they're giving these people hard time. All the time they say they call him the police, but the police are not they are not responding to them. I don't know how you can help me to ease this problem in my ward. That's one, it's not a question. Number two, many of these complexes in 54th Avenue, they don't have camera, right? When they vandalize somebody's car, there's no camera to run to see who they did this act. So I don't know, Mr. Mayor and the town member and the police, deputy police chief, what are you going to do for us to install camera on these buildings? That is just my take. Thank you. That's all.
Thank you,
Okay.
Councilor Kalan. Go ahead, Deputy Chief.
So there are a couple of cameras already on 54th Avenue. And in the budget for this year, I think we have planned to expand that camera program east of the river. As far as the security cameras on your building, I don't think we have any plans to install cameras on private property.
But there are some.
But I believe I know like Riverdale Village West and such, some of those apartments have cameras on their property, and they routinely work with our investigators to let them review footage. If that answers your question.
In our own apartment here, no camera, 5609, no camera. They vandalized my car here 2 times, a Pathfinder. And in fact, the last one, unless I give it up to the junkyard. Yes, no camera. When the police came, they can't find anything. So you see, that's why I'm bringing this before you. And please don't forget the liquor store. All the time, these people are complaining to me, complaining. They have a lot of disturbance over there. Mr. Deputy Police Chief, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Councilmember Foe, you have a question? Councilmember Foe?
Yes, can you hear me all right? My
I can
computer
now.
has been glitching.
You-
Okay. Thank you for the presentation, Deputy Chief Turner. The juvenile increase in juvenile crime rate is incredibly alarming. We've seen it in schools. We've seen it in every facet of public life. I just want to compliment Riverdale Park Police Department for I love seeing the images of us getting out into the community and building relationships. I believe really the only thing that we can do in that is proactive policing, and to see those images and to hear estimates of 500 kids coming through and having positive interaction with our police is really tremendous for our community. So thank you for all that you do. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
Any additional council questions for Deputy Chief Turner?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Inyan, go ahead.
Deputy Police Chief, I appreciate the presentation as well, and sharing the many activities that the police have with the larger community. I think I echo the Councilmember Foe's comments as well of the importance of the community seeing us in situations that are not just a negative context in their communities. That only builds better relationships, and when things do go wrong, hopefully more cooperation. One of the questions I had was around some of the statistics that you cited in terms of like the violence. Those increases, would you say are the increases sort of targeted to specific areas of the town, or have you been seeing increases in some of those statistics across the town?
It depends on which crime we're speaking of specifically, but I would say generally it's across the town, but more east of the river is generally where we have more of our violent crime. If that answers your question.
It does. Thank you. I appreciate it. I just wanted
Thank
to
you
know
for your
that
comments as well.
Yeah, no
Appreciate
problem.
it.
No problem. Of course. I just wanted to be clear that it was, define it if it was, not just an increase in just certain parts of the town, but if it's sort of spread out, that's good context to know, even though, like you mentioned, it may be concentrated more so.
Yes, sir.
Any additional council questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Smith, I believe. Is that correct?
I think it was a tie, but I can go ahead and get it out of the way.
Okay.
Thank you, sir, for the information. I'm just wondering, based on the numbers you've presented tonight and what you've seen since June, how has the use of cameras contributed to reduction in crime in Riverdale Park?
Well, first, our camera system hasn't been up and running that long. So I can't give you an accurate answer on that. As far as for like security camera wise, I know that, for instance, our speed cameras have a significant decrease, like on River Tech Court where the bike lanes are with the bollards up, things like that. But the security camera system, it took a while to get it up and running, and it's only been live for a few weeks.
Did we start paying for that when it became live, or were we paying for that in the process beforehand as well?
I don't think we paid for it until it was live.
Understood. And did I hear correctly that you said that incidents of speeding have decreased on Riverdale or River Tech Court?
That's correct.
And where we get that data from?
From our speed camera officer.
Okay.
Marissa Davis.
Thank you.
Councilmember, or excuse me, Town Manager Lestitian, your mic went live. Did you want to make a comment or response?
A comment, sir. I have checked with Director Shelton, and this is in reference to Councilmember Colon's request for cameras and statement that he has no cameras in his building. The town does have a grant program that can assist businesses and multifamily buildings east of the river if they are improving lighting, having safety cameras, doing something to enhance public safety. We do have a small grant that can assist those properties. And if anyone has questions, they should call Town Hall, and staff will be able to direct them.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Appreciate that.
Okay. That's Mr. Calon.
Go ahead, Mr. Calon, if you have another question or comment.
Yes, I have a little thing for Mr. Town Manager. Well, Mr. Town Manager, I'm confused. Who is going to inform these people, those who are managing this complex, so that they can install camera in their complex? I don't know whether it's you, the town manager, or the mayor, or the police chief, or the deputy police chief. Because if there is a complex, no camera in the complex, it's very dangerous for the residents, because many cars has been vandalized here, no trace. But if there's a camera, that's an easy job for the police to find out who are doing this type of things. So I don't know, who are we going to talk to help to install cameras on these buildings? So that's my take.
Thank you, Councilmember Calon. I would hope that the property managers would be alerted as to these grants as we pass them into law. But perhaps Director Shelton could reach out to, I know that there's a monthly meeting of property managers or property owners, and perhaps whoever from staff attends that meeting could reach out and provide this information. Is that possible, Mr. Town Manager?
Yes, and information has been shared with all the multifamily properties. I'll get with Director Shelton and we can do some additional outreach.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Additional council questions or comments regarding this presentation?
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Councilmember Langwa, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My one question is, well, I'm glad to see officers getting training in various skills that are going to be a help when on patrol. Question I had was with the passing and now the activation of the statute that Maryland General Assembly passed regarding the sale of marijuana, as they are working through how it's to be regulated, where and when it can be used. Has staff looked into getting training, or is this already begun? Have they looked into training to be able to on a stop, or if they're engaging in on a traffic stop and they're engaging with a driver and they need to do a substance test, that they're able to do one to detect to see if a driver is under the influence of marijuana?
Yes. So we have one officer on staff that's a drug recognition officer. However, all the officers are trained in field sobriety testing, and most of them have been to advanced courses, which now the advanced courses have marijuana involved in their testing. However, if we don't have a staff member available and someone fails field sobriety and they do not show the signs of alcohol, we contact a DRE, which is a drug recognition expert. However, if you're past field sobriety testing, it depends on the situation, right? The officers are trained for to know, and if somebody doesn't pass, and then you're still taking for a breathalyzer. If they blow and it blows nothing, then you use a DRE to come in and evaluate them.
Okay. Is there a goal to have more officers achieve that status of DRE?
Yes, sir, there is. However, it's an extensive amount of training.
Okay.
But the short answer is yes.
Okay. And has this field sobriety test evolved in recent years, or is it still the walking a straight line, heel to toe, balancing on one foot for a certain amount of time, recitation of the alphabet? Has it changed any?
So Maryland has a standard field sobriety testing that everyone uses the same test. We don't use there's no alphabet, there's no counting. There is some walking and balance tests, and then there's a retina test, which are nystagmus in your eyes.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's all I had. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any additional council questions or comments about the presentation? So, Deputy Chief Turner, I have one biggish question, but it may break down into a couple. You mentioned that you're tracking aggravated assault with violent crimes, but presumably simple assault is not tracked under that. Is that correct?
That's correct. If we could go back in the presentation, we define it. So it has to be a weapon involved or a serious injury, but it's further back, Jessica. Keep going. One more. There we go. So it involves a weapon or serious injury. So
Okay,
simple assault,
so-
like a simple battery, a simple fist fight, mutual combatants is not, no, that's not involved in this.
Okay, so if it's serious enough that somebody needs stitches or to go to the hospital or something like that, then it would be caught up in this. But if it's just a couple of people getting in a fight and everybody walks away and maybe some scrapes and bruises, but that's all, then it doesn't get caught in the violent crime.
Correct.
And I presume that's a standard division that aggravated is caught violent crime and simple assault is not. Is that correct?
Correct. This is FBI statistics. So
Okay.
we don't define it.
Okay, that's I thought all this was correct. It's just I haven't looked at that exact question, and so I wanted to make sure my understanding was correct. So thank you.
So I'm a little older in my career. It used to be called the UCR, the Uniform Crime Report, but now it's NIBRS.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. If you could scroll down about the car thefts that
Yes,
are
sir.
up. I noticed that that was sort of piqued my interest.
Property crime. We got to go down a couple
Yeah,
more.
it's not the carjacking, which I think we all track. So just following up on Councilmember Inyang's question, are there hotspots for auto theft, or is that also distributed across the town?
I'd say that's distributed across the town. I mean, more in the multifamily units because there's more vehicles, right? There's more options, I think, but
Right.
we're seeing it across the town.
Okay, so it's like the joke of, why do people rob banks? Because that's where all the money is. Well, why do people steal cars from the multifamilies? That's where there are more cars to choose from.
Yes, sir.
Understood. So I just wanted to see if, following up on Councilmember Kellon's question, if we could identify from the auto theft hotspots that we might locate cameras. But I think we can work with the multifamily owners as best we can, but we should not necessarily be diverting resources to focus on issues that they as the property owners should be able to address. Okay, those are all of my questions. Are there any additional council or public questions for Deputy Chief Turner? Okay, thank you, Deputy Chief Turner.
Thank you.
Moving along on the agenda. Next item is my report. Because of my travel and family events, I do not have a significant report prepared. I will say, just speaking very briefly on the COVID situation, that things are looking a little bit better than they did a few weeks ago, and that's good news. The one thing I will say is that there was a recent study that came out that showed that the protection from the original vaccinations, so when the vaccinations first came out, the two-stage vaccination at that time, that protection is essentially zero against the latest variants. So it's important to stay up to date on your vaccinations, and I encourage everyone to do so. And that's protection against serious sickness and hospitalization. So just to keep in mind. Moving along, Mr. Town Manager's report.
Yes, good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members and members of the community. Couple things to highlight. We had an absolute wonderful walk and talk on Saturday. We had, I believe, 8 students from the University of Maryland. Councilmember Inyang was there representing the council. We had members of the staff team, and then we had some residents join us. And it was a really good exchange of information. We spoke with residents along the way. We picked up litter. We had 2 public works staff there as well doing litter patrol. It was a nice way to end the season of walk and talks because that was the last one for 2023. We'll pick those up. Actually, I believe we're going to talk about the schedule for community conversations and walk and talks later this evening. Some other good news. Well, It's good that we were able to meet the need. It's bad the need exists. But through the town's efforts, 107 coats were provided to Riverdale Elementary School pre-K and kindergarten students. And students grades 1 through 5 received coats through a different program. But the town was able to ensure that the younger kids had coats. And then something that we just learned today, an effort that I believe the mayor and council know that we've repositioned our ARPA person to also be looking for grants. And one of the grants that she worked on recently, that Laverne Peaks worked on recently, was a grant to provide computer tablets to folks that really need them, and we identified the need, and that needs going to be coordinated and filled through Riverdale Elementary School. But we managed to get 19,000 plus, just a little under 20,000, and it's going to buy 100 devices. So 100 devices will be provided to families of Riverdale Elementary School students. Just a quick reminder, a brief reminder, I sent an email out to the council. Mr. Smith and Mr. Jones and I, if you would like, we're available to meet to talk in advance of the formulating the fiscal 25 budget, to talk about your priorities and some other items. We sent out a list of questions that could help guide the discussion. But we would hope to get those scheduled, if you're interested, within the next 2 weeks. And an update on the Red Speed. The mayor and council gave us authorization to negotiate a contract with Red Speed LLC for red light camera and a parking permit enforcement system. Those efforts are coming along quite well. The town's fortunate. Mr. Sussman has another client that recently had to finalize an agreement. So Mr. Sussman had a good starting place for us, a contract that he wrote and he's very comfortable with. So that's a good starting place for us. We are working diligently this week. We have a couple meetings this week on it. We do hope to have that on the agenda for you next week. The dog park, just a brief update. So we received information on Friday. Didn't appear that the information was accurate, because on our walk, we discovered that the dog park was locked. And so we've reached out and we're waiting for another update from MNCPPC. The last item I have, this is something that I mentioned to the mayor, and Mr. Mayor, I believe based upon your response, I can mention this here, and that is that as we're closing out Domestic Violence Awareness Month, whether the council would want to consider making a donation to a service provider that helps victims of domestic violence here in town. The council does have a undesignated social concern line item in your budget, and if the council were so inclined, staff could finalize a recommendation to you. It is our understanding from working with the police department that an agency that provides such services is the Community Crisis Services, Inc. It's an organization that the town is familiar with. We provided them with other funding for their outreach day that they had a number of months ago. And so with that, Mr. Mayor, I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Are there questions or comments for the town manager's report?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
First, I love the idea of making a donation to Domestic Violence Service Center. I was going to touch on my report as well, but just the idea of that last service that you mentioned, is that the same service that does the like relocation safe house services, or is that a different?
I'll defer to Deputy Chief Turner or Director Barnes.
Yes, John, they do help relocate victims. Same company or same service, sorry.
Yeah, I would support. I'd be in favor of making a donation to them. I was able to see those services firsthand, and and can attest to the fact that they provide a service that, you know, most people don't even realize they need or that it even exists. But when it does, I can tell it makes a world of difference. So thank you for bringing that up as an option for the council to consider.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Foe.
Are we awaiting further staff information on that organization, or is this something that we can bring up under new business this evening?
I believe if there's a consensus that we can just have it be on the agenda for the legislative meeting, but we could also discuss it further under new business if there's additional discussion.
Oh, okay. If you just want to add it to the legislative, I'm fine with that.
Okay, I mean, unless, you know, if it seems like a good idea, I'll just add it to the legislative. Okay, any additional questions for the town manager after his report? This is council or members of the public. Seeing none, let's go ahead to council committee and ward reports, starting with Councilmember Smith, Ward 1.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, I'd like to start by saying I'm not sure where the anecdote comes from, but you really judge the measure of a man by his response to crisis. So with that, I would like to commend Councilmember Lingua on his tenure as acting mayor. I know it wasn't easy. It was a tall ask under such circumstances, but he performed admirably. So thank you, Councilmember, for your effort this evening. It's really appreciated. With that out of the way, I don't have much tonight. I think it's important, as mentioned earlier, to note we continue to see a plague of mass shootings across our country. We've unfortunately had enough of these in the short time that I've been on the council that I'm not sure if there's anything different I or anyone else can say about them. Other than the problem is the guns, which isn't new either. But until we as a society, you know, through whatever means is required, be it, you know, we are the elected officials here, but we don't have much say in that. But through work with our federal and state delegations, until we do something about the proliferation of guns, this is going to continue to happen. People will continue to die. Yeah, I hope we can all agree that something more than what has happened already needs to be done about it. And that's all I have for tonight, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Foe, Ward 2.
It's the only thing that's on my mind this evening as well, is what, 18 killed, more injured in a place that my wife vacationed in her entire life and has introduced to our family. We love Maine. Our hearts are with Maine this evening. And we are continuously a country that does nothing to prevent this kind of gun violence. And if this feels familiar, it's in our community, we have dealt with mental illness, gun violence, the need for police to be involved in that, employees of this town being endangered by that, residents being endangered by that. I I just don't understand. And we have a Supreme Court that continuously advocates on behalf of gun owners in all circumstances, when it just seems so simple to be able to look at violent offenders, domestic abusers, the propensity towards violence, the propensity towards gun use, mental health incidents, as that pertains to gun ownership. And these are simple policies to have in place that protect all of us. And our judiciary continues to stand on behalf of gun ownership in this country. It's disgusting. And I don't know what we can do. It's frustrating. I would even advocate on behalf of within the state ignoring future Supreme Court rulings that advocate on behalf of violence and continued violence in this country. It just plagues this place, and it constantly makes me live in fear for the future that my son will see in our shared time together. And it constantly makes me assess as to whether, if we could ever find ourselves in a position leaving this country to seek safety elsewhere. Whatever we can do, I am open to those dialogues as a community. I would support anything that I possibly could to ensure, that everyone in this country does not get to witness these incidents anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Foe. Councilmember Lingual, Ward 3.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and I appreciate the comments from my colleague from the first ward. I will hold the report until the November meeting. Mostly I'll be commenting on what I learned from both CCAR CDC as well as comments from the fall conference for the Maryland Municipal League, which was in College Park this year.
Okay, thank you very much, Councilmember. Councilmember Inyang, Ward 4.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think my colleagues in council in Ward 1 and 2 spoke eloquently about the violence that we're seeing, and I have nothing else to add. Thoughts and prayers that probably said too often and shallow, hollow sentiments at times like this, but it breaks my heart to see it. But it does get me thinking about sort of, what can we do as a council? Where can we sort of apply our efforts and things that are local to us? And I think part of that is getting an understanding of the actual issues that are not just affecting our residents, that we have sort of oversight and influence over. And so I guess since the last time we reported, a couple weeks ago, I did a ride along. It was a Friday night, I think from like 6 to almost 11 o'clock. Had a phenomenal experience where, I got to sort of witness firsthand, and I'm definitely appreciative to the police chief, deputy chief, and their staff of sort of opening their space to me and really allow me to answer any questions. I probably interviewed the officers on duty there nonstop for 5 hours, and they did the same to me. And what was apparent is a lot of the day-to-day issues that on a quiet night may not be that much, but on any given time could sort of ignite into something bigger. And that's how police interact with residents when calls come in, whether it's individuals who are intoxicated, whether it's domestic violence issues. Each one of these are high pressure, high anxious situations, and sort of seeing how officers sort of navigate that. And there was a domestic violence issue, there was an arrest that was made, and just literally being in the space and seeing there's multiple bodies coming in and out of a building. Everyone's sort of nervous, everyone's unsure of each other. And that was just another Friday, right? And so I definitely commend the work that the officers do every day, especially in places where, like my ward and Ward 4, I ask my neighbors all the time, like, what's your interaction with the police? And most people, if it's outside of like a noise complaint or a parking ticket, it's not really top of mind. And then you go to certain parts in Ward 6, Ward 5, where it was clear that it was an everyday occurrence for some folks. And so the realities of violence that's happening in our communities, it may differ by ward, but an incident anywhere impacts all of us. And so that's why I'm definitely a big proponent of that donation for the domestic violence support service. I saw them do their magic in real time, and for a victim that had been married to their abuser for decades, right? The first time that they felt like they had an opportunity to find resources. So I can't speak enough about the positives of situations like that. To transition a little bit, the town manager talked about the walk and talk. I thought it was fantastic. It is literally where democracy is materialized in real form. One of my constituents was there and was able to, we talked as we picked up garbage along the path route and talked about parking specifically. And in the Madison Hill neighborhood, they have permanent parking, and I think there's been long going discussions around the issues of specifically Story Lane, the private road, the HOA over manages, and residents. There's a parking conflict there, right? And there seems to be simple solutions that could be done if residents sort of stick together, come together, and find solutions that I think could be done with just a stroke of the pen, as opposed to spending thousands of dollars sort of expanding parking. But I think there's a willingness for some of those conversations to be had, since they have been had in a few years. And I would hope that the town, and Director Barnes has mentioned, especially when the town hall renovations is done, that we can create spaces for residents to come together and have these conversations in a civilized, moderated, profession and one way. And I think there's an opportunity there as well. I'm a firm believer of whatever we do. Every time we pass a law or anytime we pass sort of a policy like the parking permit, it's new, it's going to be audited. We're going to make tweaks to it as necessary. But also realizing that we are a small town, and if there are unique circumstances that we need to find a way to use an engineering term, like, hard code it in where, it works the same way everywhere across the town, but we're making a specific provision for a specific area of the town. I'm all for that, especially if it's the difference between, peace in communities and a person's ability to find parking if they come home late, and not having to, therefore, if you can't park in your community, they're left to either legally park somewhere or park in a far away neighborhood, or go back to the place that they came from because they can't find parking on the street. So I look forward to sort of dealing with this issue over the next few months, and would hope that the town, the town hall's new renovation will be able to serve a role in that. Lastly, took a tour of the Discovery District with members of the University of Maryland, the Terrapin Development Corporation. They came and spoke to us a few weeks ago, and then took them up on an offer to take a tour. It was sort of fascinating to kind of see the plans, got a lot of history lessons in terms of what buildings are happening, where the purple line is, plans that they have for it. But I think the biggest takeaway that I got was this real, they're taking up on my claim of, in the meeting when they presented, I mentioned that my biggest concern for the Discovery District is that it is a stop that people pass through and never go to, and never sort of see as something that they can own. And so I think there are a number of businesses, especially the Shed in particular, which is, one of the largest venues to rent any type of musical equipment, and everyone in the area sort of uses them, from the National Symphony Orchestra to NPR Tiny Desk. They're also using those as opportunities, and they expressed opportunities to partner with the town and create events that we can bring the community together, use their spaces or use their instruments to bring together folks who otherwise may not have access to instruments at all, and sort of having the town sort of help be the catalyst for that. And so I'll reach out to Town Manager Lucian. I know you talked about setting up time to meet with you. That's definitely one of the things that I have top of the mind of just what is our process? How do we invest in sort of key events that will help activate the community, especially in parts of the town that have been less active and less invested in over time? And how do we build repeatable processes that will hopefully make these from one-offs to more typical, known, planned events in the future? And with that, I'll give the rest of it.
Thank you, Councilmember Yang. Councilmember Mejia, Ward 5, you have a report?
Good evening, good afternoon. I have no report.
Thank you. Councilmember Callan, Ward 6, do you have a report this evening?
Well, my own take here, my advice, we have to keep praying, pray for the Almighty Allah to protect all of us in this country. When you want to step out in the morning, you say your prayer, pray to the Almighty God for you to be protected until you return back home. Because this shooting and killing is rampant. You don't know where and when you're going to involve. So my own take, each one of us in this country, every morning when you're stepping out, you pray to your God to protect you. When you come in, you pray to your God, say, I thank you. When I went to work, I returned back safely. If not, nobody is safe. You don't know where you're going to meet a target. Because the police, they don't know where this is occurring unless you occur before they know. They have no control over this. Unless something happened before they know. A criminal can never notice you that I'm coming. No. Unless when he did the act before the police know, oh, this is a criminal act. So please, I'm praying for all of us. Every morning, may God protect all of us. When he step out, when he go and come back, let the Almighty Allah protect all of us. So this is my own take. Let's pray, pray. Prayer is very good. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilmember Callan. That brings us on the agenda to public comments. Are there any public comments this evening? I don't see any indication of a public comment, so let's go ahead and hop down to work session discussion items. Let's start. Everyone correct me if I'm touching on something that's already been discussed, but fiscal year 2024 revenue analysis and 23 audit update.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight's revenue report will cover the current fiscal year from July up to October 27th, 2023, and then the 3 fiscal years that preceded in the same time frame. We have 5 major revenue categories that I will cover. The first being local taxes, as this is the largest revenue source that the town has. I'll go a little bit more in detail for this particular category. So for the current fiscal year 2024, The local taxes total $4,059,453.37. In the previous fiscal year, in the same time frame, the total was $5,011,399. Fiscal year 2022, local taxes totaled $3,698,678.70. And fiscal year 2021, the total was $4,213,730. So for the first line item there, real estate taxes, this is the revenue that is billed by Prince George's County for real estate taxes. In the previous fiscal year, that number is higher than the current year, as well as fiscal year 2022 and 2021. As I mentioned in previous financial reports, this was an outlier year where the county had sent out the bills later, but all of the money was received in the month of October. Typically, we have a large chunk that we receive for this line item in the month of October, and then we have a second large chunk that we receive in the month of November. So if you look at the current fiscal year, we're at $3,354,000. Fiscal year 2022, not too far off at $3,137,000, and then fiscal year 2021, that total was $3,387,000. So the expectation is that in the next month, we will receive a second larger chunk of real estate taxes. Again, fiscal year 2023 was an outlier year. The second line item there, personal property tax. In fiscal year 2022 and 2021, we had higher figures there. Again, this was due to the new threshold that took place in fiscal year 2023. And we see in the current fiscal year, we're also lower than where we were in fiscal year 2022 and 2021. Current fiscal year is outperforming the last there for personal property taxes with a total of $328,396 in comparison to the previous year of $209,353. The next line item, local income tax. The state of Maryland submits these payments at the end of the month. And at the current year, we have totaled $167,000. And the last line item, operating tax, 4014, we have a total of $209,000. Last fiscal year, a total of $190,000. For 2022 and 2021, the operating taxes were billed in January. And in order for us to keep things consistent, we've had the operating taxes billed earlier in the year, in the previous fiscal year, and the same in this year. So as we progress throughout the fiscal year and we continue to do these reports, you'll see more parity there in the operating tax with the majority of the revenue being received at a later date for both fiscal year 2022 and 2021. So yeah, that is the explanation there for the local taxes. The next major category that we have is licenses and permits. For the current fiscal year, we have a total of $152,332. The previous fiscal year, we had a total of $194,000. As you can see, 4101 multifamily rental license was higher in the previous fiscal year. But if you look at 2022 and 2021, those numbers are more in line with where we at in the current fiscal year. So yeah, that explains the 2023 figure being a bit higher than the current year and then previous fiscal years. So the next category is administrative fees, which includes abatement charges and municipal infractions. For the current fiscal year, we have a total of 1,850, which is a more normal total that we have there. For fiscal year 2023, a bit of an outlier year. We had a significant amount of infractions that were enforced in the previous fiscal year. So again, neighborhood service team doing a great job ensuring that the town code is being upheld. But again, the previous fiscal year was not a normal year, with that total being so high. The next category that we have is fines and forfeitures, which includes police reports, vehicle impounds, and parking citations. For fiscal year 2024, we have a total of 11,470. Previous year, we were a bit higher there with our police reports, a few more vehicle impounds. Year before, we were at 12,975, and then fiscal year 2021, 14,195. The current fiscal year, the next major category is community safety programs. For the current fiscal year, we have a total of 246,874. Again, this is a revenue source that we don't want to rely on, as it is a very unreliable revenue source. As was mentioned in the police report, we have seen some significant reduction in speed, and in turn, there you'll have less speed camera revenue. So for the current fiscal year, we have come in lower than we did in the previous fiscal year at 276,216. For fiscal year 2022, that total was 351,323, which was much larger source of revenue there. And then for fiscal year 2021, we had a total of $206,577. With all of the 5 major categories totaled for the current fiscal year, revenue is totaled at $4,471,979. For fiscal year 2023, that number was $5,516,314. Fiscal year 2022, $4,231,187, and in fiscal year 2021, the total was $4,616,000. Again, fiscal year 2023, real estate taxes were received earlier than they typically are, so that explains why we have a significant higher amount of revenue that is recorded at this same time period in fiscal year 2023. And if there are any questions regarding the revenue, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. Are there council questions for the Deputy Director?
Mr. Mayor,
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
the revenue for parking citations, are we expecting to see that number sort of change as additional roads go online within the county, within the town sort of purview?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
in response, and then I'll ask the Deputy Chief to chime in here. I think that you will see the enforcement expand when we have an automated system again. For a short time, we had an automated system, and so now we're back to writing tickets on paper. And so I think that's part of it as well as being down a number of officers. You have fewer that are able to respond quickly or timely, I should say, to parking complaints. And oftentimes, I would think by the time the officers get there, the parking complaint may have self-corrected. Deputy Chief, anything to add to that?
No, sir, I think you covered it perfectly.
Thank you.
Okay, any additional questions for Deputy Director Jones on this report? Any public questions or comments? Okay, let's move on to the next item on the agenda, skipping over the already discussed dais design to Prince George's County Resolution CR 083 2023.
Mr. Mayor, if I could, I wanted to give an update on the audit as well.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I skipped over that. Yes, please go ahead, Deputy Director Jones.
Sure. Just a brief update on the audit. So the town of Riverdale Park is required by the state of Maryland to complete an independent annual audit. The annual audit is to ensure that local governments are in compliance with the generally accepted accounting rules, or GAAP. The town currently has an audit engagement with Lindsay and Associates, as they are tasked with completing the annual audit. Additionally, since more than $750,000 of federal funds were expended, the town is required to complete a single audit. So with the single audit, it includes an audit of the organization's financial statements and to be in compliance with federal award requirements. So when the town expended American Rescue Plan Act funds over $750,000, that will also be included in the annual audit. So at the completion of the audit, it will be made available on the website for the public. All previously completed audits, they can be found on the website as well, and those are currently available. Additionally, the audited financial statements are being used in preparing the budget. We use the audited fund balances when putting the budget together. At the conclusion of the audit, we will ensure that the beginning balances match the balances that we have. And this includes general fund, economic development, debt service, capital improvement funds. And while it is early, staff have already begun the early stages of the fiscal year 2025 budget process. So where it stands now, we're currently in the middle of the budget as far as sampling and organizing our financial statements, and we anticipate the annual budget being completed by December 31st, 2023. So yeah, that is an update on the annual audit, and if there are any questions regarding that, I'd be happy to answer as well.
Thank you, Deputy Director Jones. And again, please accept my apologies. I marked that item as discussed and then forgot that there is a second half. So, council members, questions? And just to let everyone know, Councilmember Lingua had to depart. He has a very early morning work event, and so he departed. Mr. Town Manager, go ahead.
And I just wanted to clarify, it's the audit that we'll have done here in the next few months. The budget will take us a bit longer to get that wrapped up. And I would ask Mr. Jones, is there any additional audit work that needs to happen, that's going to be happening because of ARPA?
Yeah, and that's what I was referring to when I said the single audit. So because of the American Rescue Plan Act funds that have been expended, that is additional work as far as making sure that we are in compliance from a federal standpoint.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any additional council or public questions or comments on this second report about the status of the audit? Okay, then with no additional questions or comments, let's try this again. Discussing Prince George's County Resolution CR 083 2023 regarding residential building permit allocation program.
Director Shelton, can you lead the council through this discussion? And actually, I think you have the next several items here.
I do. Thank you, Town Manager, Mayor, and Council, and members of the public. So the Prince George's County Resolution CR-83-2023 is a proposed building permit allocation program, which would limit the number of building permits that the Prince George's County would allocate to those applying for new construction for residential building permits. The goal of the resolution is to focus new development in certain areas, and they have 3 areas described within the resolution: priority areas 1, 2, and 3. We reside in priority area 1, which is roughly described as within the Capital Beltway. Let me see if I can scroll to the map down here. So transit service areas, as it's described here in the resolution, is described as priority area 1. The intent of the program is to limit the number of new residential building permits approved, and that each area has separate allocations. So the allocation for priority area 1, I believe, is about 2,800. The priority area 2 and 3, or as shown on the map, transportation service area 2 and 3, they have a much significantly less approved cap, I guess, on residential building permits. The resolution states that the county has seen more new development than they would have desired in areas outside of those that have been designed and have the infrastructure for more high density development, like within the Capital Beltway here. So the goal of the program is to limit the building permits to kind of guide and focus the new development within transportation service area 1, also known as priority area 1. While the intent of the resolution is very good, the town staff does have an immediate initial concern, I should say, that any sort of limitation on the number of building permits provided for new development within town may have a negative impact on the town's growth and future development within the town. Currently, staff are working with Denise Ross and other members of the county staff to find more data to determine exactly what type of decrease and what type of effect this limit would have on town future development. But it is clear that the overall countywide limit would see a decrease of I would say at least half. But like I said before, each priority area has a separate allocation, and the limit seems to be less impactful for our area, but it still may have an impact, and we're trying to determine exactly what magnitude that would have by working with the county staff to get more information. If there are any questions about this resolution, I'd be happy to try to answer those.
Councilmember Smith apparently has a question or comment, so go ahead, Councilmember. Councilmember Smith, we can't hear you. You're on mute.
Sorry, I thought I unmuted. I was just talking to myself, apparently. I would quibble slightly with the director's comments that the intent of this is good. I don't understand why the county, in their infinite wisdom, in a time where we are indisputably in a housing affordability crisis, would place any caps on the construction of new housing. We should be constructing housing any and everywhere we can. And this policy seems like, or proposal seems like, another policy from the county that is incredibly misguided and doomed to, make things worse for residents of PG's County. So I would hope we as a town can do anything we can to oppose this proposal.
Mr. Town Manager.
I have a request of Director Shelton. Director Shelton, can you talk a little bit about adequate public facilities?
Yes.
Because I actually think this, and this proposal is couched in making sure there's adequate public facilities prior to construction. Is that correct, Mr. Shelton?
That's correct. So making sure that that the public infrastructure and services are provided, and when there's significant residential development in areas without those that infrastructure already in place, that's a significant strain on the county. And I believe that their intent is to become, or at least to try to be more efficient and have the residential development occur in areas that already have that infrastructure anticipated for that demand.
While I appreciate any effort on the county to become more efficient, as skeptical as I am of that effort, I think the solution there is not to prohibit housing, it's to create that infrastructure. You know, my eyebrows raise anytime the county tries to get involved in development, because usually, in my experience, my personal opinion is that those might be we have to be on guard for less than honest inspirations for those changes. I'm not extremely well read on this particular topic, but that's kind of the position that I default to, unless convinced otherwise, when the county gets involved in things like this.
I'm going to let Councilmember Inyan go first, and I'll let Councilmember Listician comment after that.
I appreciate that. I think the, you know, I appreciate the revision that the county is trying to do with this law. I think at one point it was no new townhomes in the county, and it was vaguely worded, and I think a lot of unthought of issues came with that. And so tying it to particular priority areas, I think makes sense. I can appreciate the concern of, you know, if there's not an adequate way of sort of, you know, requiring a lot of the infrastructure work to be done to support this, if it's not in a place that already has the infrastructure, the additional costs that can be associated with that, and the concerns around sprawl. I would encourage the town to try to push back on a cap for some of the priority 1 areas. Like, if the idea is we want to prevent sprawl, we want to encourage people to build in a priority area, I also don't understand the notion of sort of putting a cap on that. I don't know the statistics in terms of how many projects have already been done, and would this cap be would be how much percentage above what the, you know, the annual number of developments. But I think any indication of sort of putting a limit or discouraging developing, especially for sort of key housing, as Councilmember Smith mentioned, in areas that can support this, I think is just an unnecessary burden that that the county may be unintentionally causing. And if anything, you know, may encourage folks to not feel like they are competing with other projects if they try to make something in a priority 1 or 2 area. And so that'd be the slight revision that I'd have. But I overall sort of appreciate the legislative, and thank you for bringing this to our attention.
Thank you, Councilmember. Mr. Town Manager, you had a comment or two?
The only thing I wanted to say is that the staff aren't taking a position on this at this time, or making a recommendation to the council. It's to highlight that this is happening. And Mr. Shelton has tried unsuccessfully to reach county staff to further understand what the projected impact will be. I do think once we have that information, the council taking a position on this is going to be important. And so I will work with the mayor to see if we can get this back on an agenda once we get a little bit more information. And I will say, I think our recommendation will include the council taking a position, whatever that position is.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. If I may wade in a little bit, if we could go to page 5 of the resolution. I believe it's page 5 of the resolution. I just want to point out the numbers in lines on line 15, text and numbers on lines 13, 14, 15 there. And the statement that was made is that the county issued 6,300 permits. I presume that's how 6,300 units worth of permits, and less than half of those were actually built on average during the last 10 years or so. And I think that part of what they are trying to address is that there's sort of a hoarding of approved building permits. And when you issue that many permits, then you have to have a staff to issue those. And so they are expending resources, paying for staff to issue permits that are never approved and thus don't generate the revenue, which is the idea, is that they will start generating revenue from the work that's put in by the staff. And so I understand that. So one of the issues is that I think might address some concern of the council member from the first ward, is that the caps will be adjusted each year, once a year, and they have numbers that are in here at the moment. I think the idea, the big idea behind this whole thing is not to limit the number of housing units that are constructed, but to make sure that those housing units are actually usable. So if you have a bunch of housing units that you've put 15,000 cars on the road on a single 2-lane road that doesn't have proper signage or so on, then that just means that the people who live in those houses will be spending hours in traffic each day. And I think we all know from our own road projects that getting road projects done to address issues like that can take a while. It disrupts the road planning process and so on. So I'm interested. I agree with the council member from Ward 1 that incentivizing construction of housing at this time is a very good idea. And so I'm interested in continuing to understand the motivation and the possible impacts of this legislation. And one thing that I would ask of staff is that there are 2 attachments that are referenced in this legislation that were not included in the material distributed to council. I would appreciate if those could be tracked down and provided to us. And that's all I have to say. Is just it's of interest. Mr. Town Manager, you unmuted.
I was just going to acknowledge your request, sir, and say staff will take care of that for you.
Okay, thank you. There's and just there's an overarching issue that that I've read about. I don't have a lot of expertise in this, but it's certainly something that sort of piqued my interest. Is that, excuse me, is that we're perhaps looking in the not too distant future at a shift of people back into urban environments. So traditionally, poverty has occurred in, traditionally, I mean, the last 30 to 40 years, poverty has occurred mostly in urban areas. And so if someone is poor and living in an urban area, then in general, they have easier access to mass transit, to services, and so on. And there's a concern among many people that poverty will be shifting to be in rural areas where there's no infrastructure that will be able to support the people in those circumstances. And so I think that this might be legislation that's aiming to prevent that from happening in some sense. But anyway, I'm skeptical of this. I share that with council member from the first ward, but I am interested in seeing more information and having a discussion with county leadership. And those are my my comments on this. Are there additional council comments? Are there any public comments? I'm not seeing any, so let's go ahead and move on to work session discussion item 4, bus shelter designs and locations, bus stop improvement CIP project 20DS02.
Director Chelton.
Yes, good evening again. Excuse me. The town staff have been working with on-call engineer Panoni to install new bus shelters at bus shelters within the town. The original goal was for town staff to work with the county to install these bus shelters, but after that proved unfruitful, town staff decided to continue on autonomously and do this ourselves. So we've contracted Panoni to conduct surveys of at least 6 locations. These locations were chosen by reviewing data that was provided by WMATA on ridership data. Sorry, the data was the ridership data from WMATA, and we cross-referenced the most used bus stops with areas in town that also need the most infrastructure improvement. And we came up with a short list of bus shelters or bus stops to install bus shelters at, and Panoni returned to us with news that we are able to begin on 3 of the 6 proposed spots. Those 3 being 46th Avenue and Queensbury Road. On this survey here, the bus shelter, the bus stop sign is here, so it'd be just across the street from 6203 Beale Circle. The second location is at the corner of Tanglewood Drive and Riverdale Road. The bus stop sign here is on the north side. Where? It's on the north side. I'm having a moment, I can't find it, but it's on the north side here. This is the same location as the proposed Capital Bike Share location from our earlier discussions. The third location that we were advised that we would be able to continue with immediately was the south side of 54th Avenue and Riverdale Road, where we have significantly more space to operate and more right of way. The actual bus stop is shown a little bit further east on this side here. The bus stop currently is just outside of an area that we would be able to install it immediately, but we've spoken with the county staff, and they've advised that we would be able to slide the bus stop roughly 10-15 feet to the west along River Road if we were going to install the shelter, and that would not be a concern for them. They'd be happy to move the sign for that. Panoni also delivered bus shelter renderings. The first here is actually rendering on site at Tanglewood Drive and Riverdale Road on the north side there. This bus shelter is the Maryland Standard, according to Metrobus. The Maryland Standard is kind of the bare bones here. This is an $11,000 bus shelter and concrete job, I guess, all encompassed. It's about $11,000 as estimated by Panoni. The night rendering here is the same shelter, but this time with a solar powered lighting system installed as well, and that's an additional $7,000, bringing a total to about $18,000 for the concrete pad shelter the lighting system. Panoni also did speak with staff very recently about providing additional amenities at bus stop shelters, such as public Wi-Fi outlets for charging electrical devices and things of that nature. And while that's not the Maryland standard, they did say that we would be able to explore those options, but those were significantly more expensive. They were about $39,000 in total. So as a reminder, the shelter without the solar panel lighting system was 11,000. With was about 18,000, and with all the bells and whistles was $39,000. So I'm happy to answer any questions on the locations or the shelters themselves, if the mayor and council have any questions.
Thank you, Director Shelton. Are there questions for the director about this presentation? Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Shelton, was there any consideration given to the bus stop in the area of River Road and Kenilworth Ave? I believe that is Ward 4. Granted, it is not super residential zone, but I just happen to I drive by that one kind of frequently, and it always strikes me like that looks like a really dangerous bus stop. And I'm wondering if there's anything we can do to improve there, or if the criteria here, if it didn't meet those criteria, such as being in more densely populated areas, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I don't recognize, I don't believe that was on our short list because, and again, that was primarily devised from the ridership data. So perhaps they didn't have quite the ridership numbers as these other shelters or the other stops that we're proposing shelters for.
Sure, that would make sense.
But if that's a site that we would like to take a second look at, we'd be happy to do that.
If it wouldn't be too much of an effort, I think that would be a good idea. I recognize the point you raised about ridership data. If no one's getting on or off the bus there, that's understandable that we wouldn't necessarily want to improve it. I'm just thinking of anticipated growth in the Discovery District, especially with Purple Line and everything, that would likely be a more highly trafficked commuter area in the near future. And it's it's one of those where if there's no sidewalk and the sign is just like there nearly in the street, if you're waiting on the bus there. Yeah, just a suggestion.
Thank you.
Mr. Town Manager, you have a comment?
I do. So in reference to the bus shelters, I think it's good if we get input on other locations. I view this project as ongoing, where we want to get started on adding bus shelters. But from a staff perspective, it would be good if we continue to budget for more bus shelters each year, especially once we have a design and everything picked out. It's something that is repeatable with not as much front end work that would need to happen, because we have a number of bus stop locations throughout town that I'm not a transportation planner, but I question the safety of some of the locations. I look at that the bus stop on 410 just west of Taylor. There's actually a bus stop there. There's no sidewalk, but there's a bus stop. And we have a variety of other ones that we just simply need. Well, not so simply. We would need to negotiate easements on adjoining properties. So I would encourage the council, if you have other locations, please pass those along. And our goal would be to present a proposed budget that would include additional locations for you all to consider.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Councilmember Smith, I've been trying to figure out exactly which bus stop you're talking about at the intersection of River Road and Kenilworth. Which side of the street is it on there?
I believe that is on the north side of River Road. I'm not looking at a map right now. I just
Okay.
I can get
There's-
back to you, but like I say, I drive by it frequently, and each time I'm like, I would hate to be waiting for a bus right there.
But it's on River Road. It's not on Kenilworth.
Correct.
Okay, there's another location that I certainly have noticed on the east side of Kenilworth, which is unfortunately outside of town, and so we would have a hard time justifying that. I'm looking for Google Street View right now and trying to find it. I know which one you're talking about now, though. So okay, please do get back to me on the location. Appreciate that.
Mr. Mayor, I think I was cut off and I just came back. So maybe you've already covered this, but I think Kenilworth and River Road, as you move north on Kenilworth Avenue, the Google Street View it's just pretty much any bus stop on Kenilworth Avenue within our jurisdiction probably should be on a list that we consider at some point. It is a oversized curb. There's no sidewalk. There's like tree overgrowing, at least on the Google Street View. And it's one of those things where if we use ridership data to determine our spots, things like this will perpetually be underserved because no one's probably using it because it's not safe to actually get off on the bus.
Yeah.
And so we may need to just make a decision on like, we will build it and hopefully people will use it. Because right now these are the most like problematic, dangerous bus stops, I'm sure, within our jurisdiction.
Well, good point that the feedback loop might be inappropriate if we're looking for ridership, but something is so dangerous that people wouldn't want to get on or off a bus at that location. So well said. Any additional feedback on this presentation from Director Chelton? Okay. Let's keep going. Next item is final design of welcome signage CIP project 20 PP04.
Director Chelton, I think this rounds out your busy evening.
Yes, good evening again. We spoke briefly about the welcome signage project a little bit earlier. I mentioned that back in April, the mayor and council weighed in on the welcome signage renderings that Pannoni had developed. The first one was the larger sign, and there seemed to be some consensus that this would be the sign that we would move forward with. There's a close-up version of this sign. The bigger signs, larger signs, I should say. This was on Kenilworth, the northern edge of town, and this is on the southern edge of town, still along Kenilworth. This sign is on the eastern side of town along 410, and the concern last time in April was that the original proposed smaller sign was very similar to College Park's proposed sign.
Okay, council. Have
I think we lost Ryan.
Yeah, I think he's frozen. Mr. Chelton? So I'll just finish his sentence there. So we came up with different options to be different from the College Park sign. And so we're definitely looking for feedback on the small signs. Good to note that whether the large sign or the smaller signs, where we show the seal, we will be able to have the new seal inserted there. Depending on timing, we may hold off on the smaller signs. The monument type sign, though, that could be completed, and when the new seal's done, just have the seal mounted.
Okay, thank you. Are there council comments? We've lost the visual, so it's a little bit difficult to have.
Yes. Director Barnes, are you able to? You're already working on it. So.
I think it's unfortunate College Park bears to the good signs, the good color schemes, but it is what it is for the small ones. I think option 2 would sort of be I guess it'd be what I would go with. I think I'm not sure how much the blue stands out on option 3, or, you know, I like the idea of the mostly lighter color, at least to sort of catch the eye. But I guess my question is just like, these are options that we made, or they gave us options, and we basically tried to decide on a few.
So sorry, I had computer issues there, but the options, the original option was provided without much prompting to Pannoni, and then options 2 and 3 were based on council comments from the April meeting. And so we've provided more input on 2 and 3, but we could provide even more input if there's additional changes that we'd like to see made.
Councilmember Foe?
I prefer 2 and 3, but I mean, I have to differ, I think, from Councilmember Inyang. I think I like 3 better than 2. That's where I'm at right now.
Well, this might come down to the mayor getting a vote. Okay, Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
With respect, I think my colleague from Second Ward is horribly mistaken here. I'm with my colleague from Ward 4. I like the yellow outline. I think that makes it pop. It's makes it something that you'd be more likely to stop and read if you're on foot, that is, rather than just saying, oh, that's another sign. I really like that one, and love that it differentiates from other communities within Greater Riverdale Park, such as College Park and others.
Very good. Just for the record, I'll mention that the original option 1, the shape of the sign, the position of the seal, the text, all of them were very close to College Park. So both option 2 and option 3 are now distinct and different. And so appreciate the effort on whoever did the work. I believe it was the contractor, but if staff contributed, then thank you. And sounds like we're not looking for, are we looking for a consensus this evening from staff, or is this something that we could bring up? Because we've lost 2 council members to the late evening now. Both Councilmember Lingua and Councilmember Mejia have dropped off.
Mr. Mayor, if I can ask Director Chelton, when do you need a decision so we can tell the contractor? Is this something that it's not as important on the small signs because of the seal? Do you need direction to be able to move forward on the larger sign? And can we get that next week?
Yes, I think that the direction, the design is most important. So I suppose, and less so the coloring is what I'm trying to say. So if we're trying to just choose between options 2 and 3 here, then that can be delayed a little bit. I think that can come down to when it's actually fabricated, and we can work with the vendor when we're actually purchasing the actual signage. But I think the design it would be the part that Pannoni is most interested in making sure we finalize quickly, so we can hand that over to a vendor when they're ready. But the larger sign, Town Manager, you're correct. It was that would be more important to get a final say on, as that one's a little bit more involved.
And we do have to put that out to or you're anticipating putting that out to an RFP or an invitation to bid rather. So we'll have specifications drawn up and that. So does next week work for you on that? I don't know when you're planning on to get the invitation to bid out.
But next week will be okay. Yes.
Does that work for you, Mr. Mayor?
Definitely. Definitely does. Okay, and I'll just stay quiet about which of option 2 and option 3 I prefer at this time. So
Mara led me down that path. I feel like I was misguided by my wife to go against other council members. I blame her.
tisk
I'm
tisk.
changing my mind based on Mara, actually.
Okay, let's continue on the agenda and see how we can continue working. Next item is revised vision and commitment statements for housing and neighborhoods and sustainability. I believe this is a new revision, so.
Director Barnes?
Certainly. Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. We were tasked with going back, sharpening our pencils and adding some more work to the vision and commitment statements. And I think we've done a pretty phenomenal job bringing in all of the different ideas that have been discussed over the last several meetings. We did a little cleanup just in breaking down some of the whereas clauses that had gotten just too wordy over time. But this is where we are with the, specifically with the housing and neighborhoods. There were not nearly as many changes to the sustainability, the revised sustainability vision and commitment statement. We had gotten a lot of input from the sustainability committee, so that one seemed to be much firmer, but this is the hopefully final draft of the vision and commitment to housing and neighborhoods.
Okay, council? I have just a tiny comment on the 4th whereas with the reference to the unsheltered. And I believe that the idea is that it would be suitable for and attractive to the currently unhoused or unsheltered, so that they would be able to find housing there. And as opposed to those who continue to be unsheltered. Is there discussion of that? Thoughts? I mean, basically, we would like to not have an unsheltered population because there's enough housing and it's appropriate. And so I may be just obsessing too much, but that was just wanted to see if that was worthy of consideration. But that, other than that, the whole statement looked good to me.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Renier, go ahead.
Yeah, I appreciate that call out. I'm reading the whole thing again. I think it's needs to include housing types that are suitable for and attractive to various types of vulnerable populations. And so your specification of the currently unhoused or unsheltered would be, I guess, wouldn't that also, then that would have to sort of apply to the elderly and residents with special needs as well?
Yeah, but in general, the elderly do not transition out of being elderly in a way that anyway, I'll just leave it at that. And similarly, while at times members of the special needs community do have their needs, their special needs become less overwhelming, they also do not generally transition out of that. Whereas the unsheltered can, with appropriate supports, transition out of being unsheltered. and with availability of enough housing. So that's my only concern, but I'm happy to drop this if nobody else noticed that and think that's fine.
I'm okay with the current wording of it. I understand the sentiment. I appreciate you calling it out. I think your sentiment is represented in the words, in my opinion.
Okay.
Hello, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Before I forget, and we have one homeless guy by the McDonald here in Riverdale Road. He always at that bus halt, sleeping outside there, whether winter or summer. Why can't we try to find a shelter for him or sending him somewhere in the nursing home or where? Because that is not suitable for anyone to see that guy over there.
Councilmember. So first of all, this is not on the topic that we're discussing at this time, but
no, I just to remind you about this. It's not on the topic.
Right, but
yeah, I want you to pay attention on that. Thank you.
I'll tell you very shortly that we have put immense effort into helping that individual.
Okay.
Okay, and I can discuss that with you at another time.
All right, thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions on the vision for and commitment to housing and neighborhoods? Okay, I think this might well be the final draft. So,
so as for me, I'm going to give you the tax to carry on with that, Mr. Mayor.
Excuse me?
I said we're going to give you that tax to carry on with that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Can we can you point out any of the changes that occurred on the sustainability statement just for the council, so we can make sure that's also a final draft? Or did any council members have issues with sustainability statement? Not seeing anybody who had concerns or issues. So unless someone wants to speak up, we'll take that as the final draft also. And just to be sure, are there any public comments or questions on either of these statements? Okay, I think we got a wrap. So let's put them on the agenda. Moving on to the next item, review of vision and commitment statements for business and economic development and infrastructure.
Certainly. Good evening again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. This is just our initial discussion regarding the vision for and commitment to business and economic development and infrastructure. We have shared these vision and commitment statements with the community. We put out some social media posts. We've done some posts on Town Announce. We've shared the vision and commitment statements with the staff team and also with the Riverdale Park Business Association. We have not received any specific feedback regarding changes that anyone would like to see. So this is just the initial discussion, just introducing the vision and commitment statements. If there's any initial feedback, we can certainly take that and start incorporating it, or really get into it at the next meeting.
Okay, council, do you have immediate feedback on this item, or do you want to revisit it at a future meeting?
Future meeting.
Okay. That sounded like a definitive answer there. So let's move on to the next item on the agenda, which is council discussion on county state legislative priorities. If we could pull up that document. I met with many mayors. I think there were a total of a dozen of us out of the 27 in the county. And there was a question about the impending state legislative session and the ongoing county legislative session about, are there municipal priorities that are not being addressed, or do we want to weigh in on how they should be addressed? And as you might expect from a gathering of a dozen mayors, then the conversation was wide-ranging and passionate, and lots of people had lots of different ideas. And so I was asked to distill together issues that were important to a large number of people speaking there, based on my impressions of what happened at the meeting. And I sent them out for review, and there were no significant adjustments that were requested by the mayors. And so I've highlighted with different colors, hopefully readable colors. So, and these were just the order that they came up in at the meeting. So environmental issues, including funding and programs for stormwater management, and for assisting homeowners during a stormwater event, were very important. As well as another issue, which was providing funding for homeowners for stormwater hardening, so to fix up homes so that they would not be as susceptible to high water. And we already have a program that's similar to that, but I think that the idea was to provide it at a higher level. Under social issues, the question of affordable housing, how to address the housing crisis was discussed. Walkability around affordable housing was also deemed to be pretty important. And then there was quite a bit of discussion about the entangled issues of mental health, criminal justice, and unhoused status, and how to possibly address that. And again, there wasn't an answer, but just that this is an issue that we would like to see the state legislature take up and discuss, and to help find a way to help that out. One possible solution is that I know that the availability of mental health facilities is very poor. So sometimes someone might be having a mental health event, and they go to the ER, and the ER identifies that they need to go into a facility, short-term or long-term, but there's no bed in the facility, there's no place for them, and they can stay in the emergency room for weeks, literally weeks, while they wait for a bed to open up. And also under social issues, separate from those two, was to establish policies to address racial wealth gap. Moving on to finance, a lot of people were very interested in some form of continuation of ARPA programs, and a wide variety of what various people wanted, but some way of the state funding to continue those sorts of programs that are being run currently through municipalities. And I think, just as an example for us, I think that the Farmers Market Dollars program is very popular, and we would like to continue it, but it's also pretty expensive. And so figuring out a way to do that would be nice. Under the topic area of transportation, a lot of discussion on focusing on pedestrian safety in high density areas, and a good bit of discussion on expanding bicycle pedestrian infrastructure, enhancing walkability. And scroll down, I think that's sort of it that came out of the state level. Oh no, the legal authorities. Scroll back up. Forgot about that one there. There were a lot of mayors who were interested in the vehicle noise cameras that didn't make it through the last legislature going through, and also my own favorite topic to discuss, the stop sign cameras. There's just a lot of mayors were very interested in seeing that legal authority come from the state in order to address those issues. I know that the council member from the first ward might not be so excited about either of those, but that was identified by the mayors. Going on to the county issues, if we can scroll down to that section. The mayors were very concerned about the tax differential process, the fact that our residents get a discount on their county tax bill for services that we provide, and The mayors were most concerned that the appeals process seemed to be broken, that the county decides and there's no recourse. That could conceivably be a state issue, also sort of rebalancing who has, how that process happens. And then the other two topics that had less interest but were still there, that the tax differential numbers shift too often, that they should be averaged out, and that areas, the indentation there didn't work out, but expanding areas available for credit, including youth services, services for older adults, and social service navigators. And I think that you scroll down just a little bit more to the end of the list. Yeah, then the other issues were maintaining county roads, including removing debris and keeping landscaping in good shape, and that the county health department should use their enforcement powers to keep housing safe and under proper health conditions. I think there was, again, an issue that we have somewhat taken on by having our own inspection of rental properties, but the idea was just that the county should do a better job of making sure that housing is livable. So that's what came out of the mayor's discussion, and I just wanted to see before this sort of the concrete on this all gets set, whether there are any other issues that the town council would like to bring up that we should try to establish as priorities for PGCMA, which is the gist of this discussion. So, council members, any thoughts? Councilmember Inyang.
I appreciate you sharing the list. And I'm assuming the color coding was the darker the red, the more it was agreed upon or discussed.
Exactly.
Okay.
So something that was bolded was discussed a fair amount and had widespread support. Things that were orange had even more support, and the red was very high level support, often unanimous or nearly unanimous among all the mayors.
Got it. Yeah, I think pretty much most of the reds were, I think, are definitely on there. I would say, I know the vehicle noise cameras are something that definitely in my ward, where the bridge that crosses over the train tracks has an echoing effect. So if if a muffler or a car without a muffler goes over it, I mean, it echoes like nobody's business, sometimes louder than trains that are passing by. And I think I probably get asked multiple times every single year, can we do something about it? What was the town doing? And so, being told it's a state issue that you need a law passed, I mean, I think it's definitely worth bringing up again, since I know it didn't get as much support in the last legislative decision or session.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that.
Okay. Well, like I said, that was, a hot topic, and there was legislation last session that did not pass. And so I think that PGCMA focusing on that will help get that through. Councilmember Foe.
Yes, anything pertaining to stormwater management is beneficial to the town of Riverdale Park. I saw that I didn't know what it said. It referenced the county's partners program or municipal partners, or I was just confused on that.
I'm going to hand that off to the town manager while I run and refill my not stormwater glass, but water glass, and he can explain the program and how we have participated in the recent past.
Okay.
Yes, so the county has what they call a municipal participation program. And essentially, if the town has a project, we can apply to the county and say, here's a project that will enhance your stormwater management system. But then it's incumbent upon the municipality to have the design work done, find a contractor, have the work completed. And when all that's done, then we make a draw and we're reimbursed. And
work that we, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Town Manager.
oh, no, and then the ownership is transferred to the county. So most recently, the town participated in that with the Longfellow Street project, where there were actually improvements made to private property as well as to public property. Ultimately, the county paid the lion's share of that. I think we had about 20,000 local dollars on a little over $200,000 project. And so it's a good program. It really needs to be supercharged.
And so the discussion that the mayors had was, if the state, so last year, our Senator Washington proposed sending $20 million, I think it was $10 or $20 million to local governments for improving stormwater. And one way to do that and make it most effective for us would be if that was sent to the county to be explicitly put into the municipal participation program that already exists. And so there'd just be a bigger pot of money there that we could tap into for the various projects.
No, I was the intent of asking that question was I wanted to ensure that local municipalities could access those funds to retrofit existing systems. We've done that successfully within the town, and waiting for county or state action on behalf of our residents has proven less fruitful. So right. I'm absolutely excited to hear that. I love the investment into individual homeowners to retrofit their properties for stormwater management. It at least gives us some fire to send to our constituents, the next time that we receive one of those rains.
I definitely agree. It just seemed like a good direction. So I'm hoping that we can get that addressed in this round of the legislature. So anything, so I'm hearing general agreement with some of the hot topic items from other municipalities. Is anything missing? I mean, are there things that appeared in this list that were not highlighted in any way that are important that I should, take forward as Riverdale Park priorities at least?
Mr. Mayor?
I'm not, I think the Councilmember Foe may have has his hand up.
He's got his hand up. Let him go. He was being polite.
I think any review, any dialogue that we can have about guns in the state of Maryland would be beneficial. Just reviewing laws, practices, whatever it is that we can improve upon as a state and pass that down to municipalities would be something that I would be in support of as well.
Okay, I will put that in. And just a second. I'm taking notes here. Our Congressman Ivey is working on violence reduction, gun violence issues at the federal level, and so he brought this up at a meeting I attended with some other mayors I believe it was in September. And so it is a topic for him, and I'm sure that he has also been recently energized to move faster on it, perhaps by the recent action.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Callan, yes.
I'm interested in the vehicle noise camera.
Okay.
If we can reinforce that one, it will be good for us, because that thing is not good for those who have a hypertension. Because some people, when they pass you, if you don't be careful, you're going to fall down when you're on foot.
Mm-hmm.
So I want us to put emphasis on that one, that noise, vehicle noise camera, so that if the camera can be able to take them, pay a fine, that will be fine. So I'm interested on that. Let's put that resolution before.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, as I said, that was big interest, and there's an already written bill, and so we could just see if we can try to get it passed during this upcoming legislative session. But thank you for your input on that. Okay, I I will take this, and I've actually been. Oh, excuse me, Councilmember Smith, you spoke up. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for come back to me if for no other reason to make a point. I do appreciate sincerely your note of my view on this subject, and so I would just like to add to the discussion. If for no other purpose than for the minutes, that I would prefer that our delegations prioritize a re-examination of the use of automated law enforcement. I think, primarily my concern with this is that not enough questions are being asked. And I think we have a duty to our constituents and to taxpayers to ask more questions than are being asked about these issues. So my thing with it is I'm always going to be the person that's asking those questions. So I appreciate your acknowledgement of that. And again, if I recognize I'm outside of the consensus on this in a lot of ways, but for no other reason than the minutes, I would encourage that re-examination.
Sure, and I think that that it's worth investigating and considering the unintended impacts of high levels of automated enforcement. There may be some that there would be a consensus that that's a bad idea, and if so, they should at least be consideration of how to mitigate or avoid them, because there are consequences to the law not being enforced too. And so it's there's as with all legal issues, there's a balance, and you need to figure out what to do. And I appreciate that you continue to speak on this issue. I think we do need to think about it. Okay, any other discussion of these legislative priorities? Any public comments on these this list of legislative priorities? Okay, I've lost my agenda. There it is. Next item number 9, community conversations and walk and talks.
Director Barnes.
Good evening, Mayor Thompson and members of the council. This item is just simply a proposed schedule of the upcoming community conversations and the walk and talks in 2024. So as the weather starts to cool down, we move into the community conversations phase of our communication outreach. Again, these are meant to be just small gatherings with residents on topics that are of interest to the community. It's a quality over quantity. So we have a small number of folks. We're getting a lot of good feedback on different topics. The first one we have scheduled is on November the 18th at 9:30, and that's the Town Seal design process. Neighborhood Design Center will lead that discussion about the upcoming focus groups and how people can get involved with the process. And then moving into December, we would talk about the budget process. It's always a good time to educate people on how that works and how they can be involved, although we've gotten a lot of feedback already going into the fiscal year 2025 budget process. And then in January, we'd like to talk about the Walk Drive safety initiative. And the last 3 community conversation topics are to be determined. And those are simply to be a little bit more flexible if things change between now and then and other topics come up. We try to be very timely on the topics that we discuss. And then the dates for the walk and talks in 2024 are listed below. There are no walk and talks scheduled for July and August. That's typically the council recess, if you will. Hottest time of the year also, I can't help but say that. But we had a fantastic community walk on Saturday, and it just really drove home the reason why we do this. We had residents from all over town. So if we ever question whether our communication programs work, last weekend was a good example of seeing folks from all areas of the community who are interested in what the town's doing, new residents and students and all sorts of good stuff. So these are working. They're really great programs, and these are just the proposed dates. If there's any discussion or anything that doesn't work, just let staff know, and we're happy to move them around a little bit.
Thank you, Director Barnes. Appreciate that. And I regret that I had this conflict with a family observation and could not attend the walk and talk this most recent Saturday. Council members, do these dates and times and topics look good? Can we, Councilmember Smith?
Thank you to staff for putting these events together. You know, the couple that I've been to have been fantastic. I wish I had fewer conflicts in my schedule that I could get to more. But since I haven't been to the last couple, I was wondering in terms of the group over quality over quantity, if we're seeing the same, sorry for my dog having opinions about this as well. If we're seeing the same residents come repeatedly, or if there is a number of people participating from one to another that might not be the same, diversity amongst that group, that sort of thing. And secondly, would just like to propose that maybe one not date specific walk and talk at some point be devoted to our town's sustainability efforts. I'm looking at particularly the spring dates that might be good for outdoor walks and talking about those sort of things. But yeah, primarily interested in the diversity of attendance in these from the residents.
If I may respond, Mayor Thompson.
Please do.
That was probably what was most exciting, Councilman Smith, about this meeting or this walk and talk on Saturday. They were all new faces to me, and folks that came from all sorts of different areas in town. So this was really a fantastic opportunity. The students added such a really exciting component. They brought something more to the discussion because they had lots of very basic questions about how we do things here in town, and it was really wonderful. I know I get very excited about these things, but the walk on Saturday was really fulfilling. We got to talk a lot about the great things that the town's doing for the community, and I did feel like we had a really diverse group. It's not folks that have come to other walks, so you know, the more that we do these, I think more people know what to expect, and I think more folks will get involved as time goes on. But I do agree with the spring dates. I'm always a little edgy about the spring dates because we have a lot of rain. But I did, it's not on the cover memo, but it was on the draft that I sent out to staff. The April date, April is Earth Month, so we'd like to do something special for Earth Month. It may not be a community conversation, it may be something a little bit different, but it's on our radar as well.
Thank you for that, Ms. Barnes. And, you know, we're extremely lucky to have somebody that gets excited about such things on our staff. And I know you're not the only one in that. We're lucky that that permeates throughout the town staff. And then just the last thing I would say, and this may already be something that's on your radar, but if not, I'm just interested in how much thought, or if we can give more thought to ensuring that we have the capabilities that encourage participation from everyone in the community. And I'm thinking of interpreters, whether it be non-English speaking or hearing impaired, having ASL interpreters on hand. Yeah, I know it's a balance of providing those people, but you know, we don't necessarily want to have the interpreters when if people aren't going to come and that service isn't going to be used, but people might not come if they don't know that it's going to be used. So recognizing that balance, but I hope we're giving some consideration to that.
Absolutely.
Okay. My only comment, and it sounds like you put a lot of thought into it, as to whether the April 20th date could be a walk and talk, but maybe you looked at the history of weather on that day and decided that it would be better to schedule it for indoors.
Just for now. Let's see how things shake out. But April is always a rainy month. That's
Yeah.
what I kind of think about.
Yep. Okay. Very good. Any additional council discussion of the topics and dates for community conversations and walk and talks? Any public comments? Do we have any members of the public still in comment? It looks like it's all staff and council. Okay, let's move on to the next item. And that is upcoming town events, item 10.
Thank you again, Mayor Thompson and members of the council and the community. This is probably one of my favorite topics to talk about. These are some upcoming town events. We're starting to get back into the swing of things in our post-COVID world. And we're starting to look at ways to bring people together that may be a little bit different than what we've done perhaps in the past. So some of the things that we have planned coming up will be our Veterans Day celebration on November the 11th at 11 a.m. Time, date, location is all the same, but it's we will have some music coordinated by Riverdale Park Arts. It's right now a brass ensemble. We will have, of course, comments made by Mayor Thompson. The national anthem will be sung by a member of the Riverdale Park Police Department, and we'll have a wreath placed during the ceremony. So all of that is pretty similar to what we've done in the past. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to meet with a longtime resident, Mr. J.D. Williams, and he gave us some additional thoughts on the Veterans Day event. And so I'll be talking with Mayor Thompson about that to see if we can incorporate some of those things into his comments and seeing how we can make all of that happen as far as what Mr. Williams had envisioned for this event. So it's a little bit different, but it's still keeping along the same lines. Small Business Saturday is coming up on November the 25th. We will hold that event like we have in the past outdoors at Town Center. Riverdale Park Arts is working with us to coordinate the music, and we did hear past council comments about some diversity in the types of music that we're choosing, and there's some really neat options. I'm afraid to announce anything publicly, but we do have some really great options. Hopefully we can afford all the neat stuff that Riverdale Park Arts is working on for us. So that's pretty exciting stuff. And then last but not least is the holiday kickoff event. So this event is envisioned to be held on December the 2nd from approximately 5 to 8 in Town Center. We have a rain date for December 9th because historically we have rain or snow on that weekend that we try to do something fun around the holidays. This event is envisioned to be a little bit different than what we've done in the past. We plan to have holiday lights illuminating Town Center. We will have music coordinated by Riverdale Park Arts, and that will include bands, but it also may include some of the students in the area schools singing their holiday songs. Everyone has a holiday performance around that time, so if we can work around the school schedule. I'm really excited to announce that we would like to put an ice skating rink in the middle of Town Center. It's an iceless ice skating rink for this event. Something different. I don't think we've ever done that before in Town Center. So this would be a family oriented activity through a insured vendor. We're working with Legit to see if we need to get for ourselves an additional rider for the event. We would have free hot cocoa, hot cider, hot coffee. We're hoping to use a vendor right in Town Center so we can support our local small businesses. Due to the construction at Town Hall, we haven't been able to have and COVID, of course, we haven't been able to have our Build an Animal workshop, which is wildly successful. We've been doing the holiday party to go bags, and we envision distributing those bags on December 2nd in the evening. We also are starting a Shop Local, Shop Riverdale Park initiative. You'll see more about that in the town crier this month, but we had some reusable canvas bags printed with this really great logo. So we are encouraging folks as a kickoff to the holiday season to shop local and shop in Riverdale Park. So that's a big part of what we want to do on that day. And we'll also collect toys for our holiday toy drive. So that's a lot in one event, and I believe we can pull that off pretty easily.
Councilmember Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to compliment the staff on this proposal. This is all of these events, the expansion of them, the scope of them is highly impressive. And I love that you guys are always not just executing the vision of the mayor and council, but looking to expand and do more. So this is fantastic. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
Likewise, I definitely appreciate this, and I think the, it's always good when you read it and you're excited about what it'll be, and so I think it's a great thing, and I think so many opportunities to sort of build the rituals behind it, where people sort of know it, anticipate it, look forward to it. My only question is just how best can sort of council help in events like this to be successful? Do you need us to hand out bags or roll up? I can figure out what iceless skating is. I can try to take lessons now so I don't hurt myself, but if there are particular ways that we can be better of assistance, please let me know.
Absolutely. Thank you. Just spreading the word and helping to bring your neighbors out is always helpful.
Mr. Town Manager.
First, thank you, Mr. Mayor and members of the council for your kind words, because staff have worked really hard on all of our events, but really in trying to do something new and different and more engaging around the holidays, which is really what's being proposed here is focused on our residents. I do think, though, it's important that I make another comment, though. This is going to be different. And so in years past, the town has supported other holiday events where the town would spend $6,000 or so and rent a tent and have vendors so people can come and shop. And what we're recommending is we don't do that, and that we do this. And my personal opinion is that this is focused more acutely on our residents and bringing people together around the holidays. And but you may hear from folks that are used to what's been done in the past, saying, why are you changing? And I just want to point that out in case you receive calls from a staff perspective. The change is so that we are more focused on our residents and bringing people together.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. Any thoughts, council members?
No, I think I agree. I'm not surprised at all. Change is inevitable, but at the same time, the biggest thing that people want and also hate. So I think it's a fair point. To the point about getting the word out, please pass along any flyers whenever they're ready, and so that we can try to get save the dates out. I sort of see, like, I know what we can look at Trolley Trail Day as like a success in terms of like, what do we do, and we want to get the word out and everyone sort of understands that this is what the day is. And I'd love it for it to be the same for all of these events, so that there's no question about whether or not a person knew of this. If you choose to go, if not, that's one thing, but awareness shouldn't really be an issue. And then just lastly, the holiday to-go bags, they've already been distributed, or that's something that will happen at a particular time? You have to ask a question at a town council meeting to get a bag. We should probably figure out.
No, these are really actually highly coveted bags. We did a pre-COVID a build an animal, like a Build-A-Bear workshop with all sorts of different things, and we would have the line out the door. Residents from town and all over would come for this event. And so during COVID, we would put them actually in like little bags with different crafts and different things that were like a holiday party to take home for the kids. So those haven't been distributed yet. It's going to be a little tricky to try to do it while town hall is being renovated, but thank goodness the Boys and Girls Club is ready for us to start storing all of these exciting supplies. But we'll have these bags, and literally the families already know, and they're looking forward to them now. So I think it'll draw more people to the event just to be handing them out that day.
Awesome. And just real quick, and last thing, the shop, local shop Riverdale, those canvas bags, have they been given out as too, or is that all everything you have to come to the event to get it for the first time?
You do. I was hoping to have those ready for Small Business Saturday, but Small Business Saturday is really just focused on small businesses, and this shop local is focused on shopping in Riverdale Park, whether it's a small business or a big business or a medium-sized business. So we decided to give those out as part of our kickoff event, a kickoff for the holiday season, and then we'll have our Small Business Saturday merch, if you will, that'll be given out on Small Business Saturday, and actually the market prior to the farmers market prior to that. So we're waiting for the bags to come in. They've been ordered. We just haven't received them yet.
Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just note to staff as a reminder that in my day job, my trade is in public relations. So if I always try, or I always do defer to staff on that, because of that's the appropriate role, and I don't want to tell anybody how to do their job. But if any effort that I could pitch in to promote these things, and I don't mean like telling you guys how to do your job, because but like an extra set of hands to write an advisory, make some pitch calls, that kind of thing, I'm happy to do that. But otherwise, continue to defer to the great job that you guys do.
Thank you so much. I'm just overwhelmed with the support from council tonight. I'm really excited about the event and think this will be new and different for the town, and hopefully a starting point for residents to expect, things around the holiday season. So yeah, thank you again for your support.
Okay. If there's no additional discussion, let's move along on the agenda. It's getting late. Agenda item 11, minutes. As usual, please check the minutes and make sure that what you said was recorded, because that's what will go down in history, and want to make sure it's correct. Moving on to unfinished business. Item number 1, update on the Riverdale Park Community and Municipal Center Project 6601 Baltimore. I have action items to reach out to Congressman's office, Congressman Ivey's office, and I think, as you all know, lots going on downtown in the House of Representatives, and also lots going on during the month of October. And I have not done that yet, but I will be elevating it and trying to reach out in the next few days to get an update on where they are and what we might expect to see. Is there anything from staff on this?
Just that I'm going to try to work out some additional tour times. So for elected officials who have not been inside the building, I haven't spoken with the new contact yet, but as soon as I do, I'll try to coordinate a date or two. But most likely it'll have to be during the morning or early afternoon hours.
Okay.
And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Also under unfinished business, the council created a committee at the special legislative on October 16th. And the committee met last Thursday evening. Myself, Director Barnes, Councilmember Foe, and Councilmember Inyang, and the committee has given itself an official name, which is the October 2nd Council Conduct Root Cause Analysis Committee, and discussed a root cause analysis requires a definition of the loss event, what happened at the October 2nd meeting that needs to be investigated. And I think we hashed out a pretty good version of that. It's long and involved, so I'm not going to read it here, but just wanted to update the council that things are making good progress in that for that committee, that council committee. Unless anyone has any questions about that, moving along to new business. I put on my notes here, domestic violence grant to CCRI, but I think that's just going to go on the agenda for the legislative meeting, and so we'll expect to have a.
I was confused when I suggested that and thought that we were still in legislative. I rescind that request.
Okay, very good. So I should have asked if there are any other items of unfinished business, but are there any items of unfinished business or new business that council members want to bring up?
Yes.
Councilmember Kellon, go ahead.
Well, I'm still on my leg to the I'm appealing to the town manager to make sure that our tips are double. We need 100%. So, Mr. Town Manager. Hello, Mr. Town Manager.
I'm listening, sir.
Don't sleep. Oh, it's not time to sleep. As I said the last time, we need an increase, 100%. Okay,
Mr. Kellon, this is the council salaries. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So at the last meeting, then we decided as a council that we were going to wait for feedback from staff. They're going to be doing research, and they would present in February at the February 2024 work session. And we were not going to discuss this topic until February 2024 work session.
I didn't hear that when you said it.
Okay, so.
And what I want to say again, it made me forget something. We have many people lose memory, man. It's another thing. Come on.
Okay.
Anyway, let me leave that one for another time.
Okay, very good. Councilmember Smith, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just heard really great reviews of the program for e-bike rebates that the District of Columbia has rolled out, recognizing they're a much bigger municipality than us, with a much wealthier tax base in many ways, that they have, abilities to do that. I would be interested if there is consensus among the council in exploring what sort of complementary measure or similar measure that we could do with the resources we have as our town. As I understand it, their program can pay for as much as like half the cost of a $3,000 bike. I'm sure that is not something we can do, but as a way to encourage more sustainable transportation in the community, maybe we could have a subcommittee or a study or something to determine what would be within our capability as a town to encourage that sort of thing.
Okay. Do you have a link to a news article about the district's program? I'd be interested in learning about that.
Sure, I can share that around.
Okay, and maybe we can sort of put this on staff's radar to start thinking about and hear back from them sometime soon. Any other items of unfinished business or new business?
Mr. Mayor.
Councilmember Inyang, go ahead.
It's around the council committees. I've been trying to think of ways to sort of jumpstart them in a way that, one is sort of respect for the staff's time and support that may be necessary, but two, also is in a way that respects that line between sort of administration and governance. And so I'm not sure exactly what the solution is, whether it's I know in like the initial document that you sort of, help put together in terms of like what the committees could be doing. I think it might be useful to, whether we have like a work session or we spend time as a council thinking about what actually would be like what are tangible goals that each committee can try to like aim for, by the end of the, this legislative session, that, and, that makes sense so that everyone kind of has an understanding of, maybe that's more appropriate than not appropriate. These are areas where the town has no coverage, or it's not, they're not necessarily interested in doing that. That's more of an elected official to elected official, and sort of just getting some ground rules. I think otherwise I think it'll be challenging for the committees to sort of, get off the ground.
Okay, I'm not sure of, other council members want to weigh in. I'm not sure of exactly how to immediately respond. I think one thing is to recognize that if you want to just have an initial meeting of your committee, and the other chairs do also, then just contact town staff and pick a date and time, and have a meeting and hash out what the committee thinks. And then you can report back at the next council meeting and say, this is, we met and discussed, and these are topics we're going to move on. And people can provide, including town staff can provide feedback. And just to be clear on the Meetings Act's requirements, the minutes that we have of town council meetings are immensely detailed, and the Open Meetings Act does not require that level of detail. And so I think it would be a good idea if the meetings are, especially they're virtual, that they be recorded, and that record be available. And the minutes could just be, less than a single page that says, we discussed activities of this committee and decided to focus on the following 3 topics during the next year, and specify what the 3 topics are. And that could be, met, this is who was there, this is what we discussed, and this was the conclusion we came to, we adjourned, and date and time and that sort of information. And that could be the whole minutes, as opposed to, an hour of discussion in tight detail. So, and that would be much less impact on staff than generating minutes of the source that we have from council meetings.
No, I appreciate that. I'm sort of approaching it of a different perspective, not necessarily what is like the legal barrier to cross from like a Open Meetings Act perspective, but more so this is brand new muscle that the council's trying to build for the first time probably in years or so outside of the finance and budget committee. Mm-hmm. And just sort of talking anecdotally to other members of council, like the proposed things that they would want to talk about, I think varies widely in terms of what even the idea of what these committees would be. And so what I'm proposing is more so whether it's a brainstorming work session, kind of talking about, people can bring their ideas of what they're trying to see and sort of generate some of that enthusiasm. What I don't want to do is essentially lose all momentum from having, the work that was done to sort of redefine what these committees are. And then I don't believe a meeting has been placed or scheduled by anyone yet. So clearly there's obstacles, and I can speak for myself that, I've sort of bounced around in terms of like what I think might be appropriate, and sort of getting feedback, even talking from the town manager about, what the needs from staff are and what the town sort of perspective is in terms of what would be more helpful than not helpful from like from the council's thinking and focusing on stuff was helpful for me. And I wonder if other town council members would benefit from similar conversations as well.
Okay. Mr. Town Manager, any feedback on?
I would say that I think the conversation that Councilmember Inyang and I had was productive, and I'm certainly available for any of the council members to talk on any town business, and talking on these committees I think would be good. because I think that depending on the direction of the committee, on the staff side, we may already have some things in motion that it would be good for the committee to know about as they formulate their agenda. So I think having a meeting with myself, and I can bring members of my team, so we can be responsive to questions and provide insight as they formulate their agendas, I think would be helpful to the town overall.
Okay, I think, and Councilmember Yang, please correct me if this is not correct, that what the council member is thinking is that we might have set aside some time at a future work session, which would presumably be November, since we're finishing up the October here, and just sort of discuss the committees and the committee process and how to get them going as a group. Is that what you're thinking, Councilmember Yang?
Correct. I think that would allow us to bring a level, it'll raise the floor for all the committees and not have everyone try to do the same thing in isolation. Yeah, I think it'll probably save the town staff or, town manager, save you some time of answering any questions that people may have all at once, as opposed to people trickling in slowly over time. And I think that would be sort of time well spent in a work session. If it doesn't necessarily have to be November, if it needs to be like at a later date, that's fine. But trying to find some time would be helpful.
And Mr. Mayor, if I can comment, I had a thought, and one of my staff texted me the exact same thought. We have a lot going on in terms of already for you all at your regular meetings. It may be good to schedule a special work session.
Yeah. I was hearing that from Councilmember Yang also, that it might be good to have a special meeting just to discuss those.
Yes.
Okay. Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to concur with my colleague from the 4th Ward on the enthusiasm and need to develop our committees as actual organs of government that can shine a light on things, provide oversight where need be, etc. And note for other council members, if you haven't engaged with staff on what you can do with your committee. Just speaking for myself, and it sounds like Councilman Yang has had the same experience, but I've reached out about scheduling some housing committee meetings, and staff, I mean, they're waiting on me essentially. They've been incredibly responsive and happy to help set these up. So I would encourage everybody to look at doing that with your committees.
Okay, so let's look at scheduling something. We're heading into the holiday season, but let's try to find maybe we could do this on a Saturday sometime, special work session, and discuss it. Does that sound reasonable?
As long as there are no pre-planned town event meetings happening, because otherwise I'm not missing that for anything. So
okay. Okay, very good. So I'll work with the town manager to discuss some. Sometimes it might work for staff, and then reach out with a menu to council members and see what we can set up.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional items of unfinished or new business? Awfully quiet. I think we might be done. So have a good evening, what's left of it, everyone, and have a good week. See you soon.
Good night, everyone. Thank you.